Welcome to the night zone, hear the warriors speak. Life's the battlefield and we ain't feeling weak. From love to the game and the power we seek. Our voice is strong, breaking every peak. Talk of love and battle scars, everything that's real. From touchdown to sermon, you know the deal. Strength in every word we begin to reveal. Truth in every tale as our lives we unveil. Talk of love and battle scars, everything that's real. From touchdown to sermon, you know the deal. Strength in every word we begin to reveal. Truth in every tale as our lives we unveil. Protect and provide, we're knights in the fray. Nothing off limits, we got something to say. Life and love, fitness and fight all day. Guys Night Podcast, let's ride the wave. Politics and prayers, ain't no subject we shun. Keep your reading.
Day, greetings. This is the Guys Night Podcast. Appreciate you joining in to hear all about how all Republicans are Nazis. Everybody hates Trump, Israel, and Epstein, what the tie is, and there's so much more. For those who've been listening to us for a while, we've heard so many things from the point of view of the right, or the so-called right. And unfortunately, nobody from the left wants to join the show. So we're going to try to talk about everything and anything going on right now this week in politics, from ceasefires and to what's Putin going to do next. So we've got a couple of guys that we know here locally that joined us. But first, as always, to my left, David, how you doing?
Hello.
And to my right is Evan.
What's going on, everyone?
All right, perfect. And first time being on the show, to my left is Anthony. What's happening, dude?
What's up? What's going on?
And Ryan, how's it going, man?
Pretty good. Can't complain.
Yeah, so once again, to everybody that's listening, we open up the format to anybody that's within the community that wants to be on the show, that wants to talk anything from politics to fitness to business and everything in between. These guys happen to go to Warehouse Gym here in Medina, saw some of the podcasts, and was like, hey, I want to talk politics, so we figured why not have them on this week, because there's a lot going on. So welcome aboard, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so first thing is first. Everybody was told to kind of bring something that they wanted to discuss a little bit about. So who wants to lead off the evening with something going on in politics right now and get this conversation started? Or are we going to require Evan to do that first?
No, I would say I was just watching videos about the Canada Prime Minister. He just got Mark. Was it Conway? I can't pronounce it.
Conway, I think.
Yeah, he former governor of the Bank of England.
Yeah.
Has just got sworn in as prime minister today.
Oh, no kidding. Has that went through?
Yeah, went through and everything. So then he did a little speech on online saying about all the new tariffs of Trump. He was not happy.
Well,
he was not happy at all. I mean, literally, he was like hardworking Canadians and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, Jesus.
so do you know what a tariff is?
Yeah, it's when they add money when you bring in crops to another country, they add tariffs to it, like adding more money. Say we bring say corn to Israel. Israel puts a tariff if we bring it in, so it costs more money for us to bring it into another country.
Well, yeah, it's essentially a sales tax to the
Yeah.
countries that are
Yeah.
actually doing the trade, rather than passing it on, rather than taxing the hell out of the citizens, which is kind of what we do on top of it here. But the idea, I think, is to make some of these people pay for the unfair trades. Really, we've been a charity case for most of these countries for years and years. I don't know what you guys would agree or disagree to that, but I think the tariffs can be a good thing. But obviously, when you have everybody trying to fight back, eventually they're going to give in, though.
Yeah.
What, Evan? What did he mention? Any particular products that he feels Canadians are pissed off about?
Well, one of them was I think he was talking about liquor. Some of them was liquor because they're taking liquor off all the shelves in Canada. U.S. liquor.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so apparently a lot of the tariffs that they're putting on our goods are focused around red states, right? The idea is that it's going to affect us. So it started with liquor on the idea of what's coming in from over there. But Ryan...
automobiles is number one.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest
Correct.
thing there.
Yeah, but that's us to them, right?
That's what I asked.
Right.
It's like what are they mostly concerned about? Like, because that's really it. I mean, even just Googling it, it's parts, machinery, electrical and electronic equipment, which seems strange because most of that stuff, comes from Asia somewhere.
I was say China.
Yeah, but yeah, if you stop and think about it, Like, what's the coolest Japanese car you can think of?
I don't know if they're
Toyota,
Cool Toyota.
Toyota.
Is it Subaru? No, Subaru is Korean.
Yeah.
Subaru is Japan.
Is
Japan.
it?
Yeah,
And then
Japan.
Mitsubishi.
That's
That's Japan.
That's Japan as
There's
well.
a lot of
right? Yeah.
Japanese
Yeah.
cars. A lot.
What's
Yeah.
the coolest Canadian car you could think of?
Oh fuck! I have no idea.
All right, so we don't give a fuck about that because they don't make any cars, so they rely on us and Japan and China for cars, right? So, yeah, but I don't know that there's really. I mean, alcohol is kind of laughable because I don't know that we export a measurable amount of alcohol up there. I mean, they have their own whiskey, so
Yes.
they don't need us for that. But yeah, kind of curious. So it always makes me wonder because some people just like to complain. So are they just complaining because it's going to make news clips, or are they going to die because of tariffs?
I don't think anyone's going to die from tariffs, but overall, it's like a zero-sum game because it's just an added tax on the consumer, whoever that is, whether it's a Canadian, U.S., like Chinese person. So it takes away from your purchasing power overall. You lose money. It's just a tax, another form of a tax that you don't see.
And what do we lose? Because what are we importing from Canada other than like Ryan Reynolds?
Did you see there was a story about a city in, I forget what state it was, but along the border where they get some of their electricity from
It's in
Canada?
Michigan.
Yeah, I did see
they're,
that.
They're like tied into the grid.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, where now you have like a beneficial relationship, you start messing with that with tariffing or whatever, and it becomes not beneficial to both parties, and it benefits one versus the other. So it's not really.
And I
it
don't
takes away the competitiveness.
I don't think they can tariff that because that's not goods. That's a service.
No, but wait, he threatened to turn it off. Basically,
Yeah.
he basically said like, "Oh, if you're going to tariff me, then I'm going to shut off electricity." Which is funny because Trump's like, "Wait, what the fuck? Why are we getting electricity from you?" Which is right. Like, why are we, in that scenario that's the case? But I was just trying to look and see what the total dollar of expenditure between both is. I mean, obviously Canada, they would be more beneficial to be the 51st state than they are to be an additional country. I don't think that's going to happen. I know everybody's laughing about it now. But we also can't afford to be in a fucking war of going back and forth over dollars with a neighboring country. We have enough battles going on right now.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen, but like Canada is disproportionately affected by like trade relations with Mexico. Like they rely on us more than we rely on them in terms of the goods that they import
Right.
and whatnot versus what we import from them.
Automobiles is really it because I don't think they produce a single automobile up there. Like we have plants up there that make parts, but I don't think Canada manufactures any motor vehicle. At all.
I don't believe they do. I think it's like rubber and stuff like that. It's
Bombardier. So they make fucking side by sides. So without us, they gotta drive side by sides.
Yeah, but they make a Bombardier.
They make all the Bombardier products, the Sea-Doos and the Ski-Doos and
I
whatever
didn't
their
realize that.
side by side is called.
I don't know.
You're a fucking side by side guy. How would you not know?
Honda, Polaris, anybody else? Kawasaki. Other than that,
Yeah, the
Yamaha.
Bombardier makes they make one too. I just forget what it's called.
junk probably.
They're
Anthony,
pretty
what's your
nice.
thought on this, man?
I honestly think that Canada will be the 51st. Also, Greenland. But also Mexico as well. But they don't need. See, Mexico's not gonna get taken over right away because they need them for the digital IDs. Okay, the digital IDs are going to be coming, in my opinion, and they need the immigrants to have that as a catalyst to have everybody want them.
What do you mean? All right, so here, let's walk me through. Oh, look, yep, we got a couple conspiracy theorists here on digital IDs. All right, so digital IDs, what we're going to start injecting everybody with NFC tags or?
Well, they already have digital IDs. It's already like an implemented system. Like, so if you go through customs at some places or like, like TSA now, you don't even have to show your
Right.
ID or whatever. It's all facial recognition.
They also
Right.
practiced that in the NFL too, I believe, last year.
That
Yeah.
was like a thing at the
Yeah.
couple stadiums and stuff like that.
They started facial recognition and stuff like that. So
Oh yeah, they actually have that at Brown Stadium now too. They started it in the convenience stores. You have to register, and so when you walk through, it picks your face up, and then whatever you take from the store, it automatically knows.
Didn't Amazon do that?
Yeah,
Amazon
in the
and-
stores.
Yeah, New York, Chicago, California. They did that for a little bit, but then there were some problems with it because the shelves were not what's it called? They were packing the shelves, but they calculate what the product weighs, and then when someone picks it up, they inventory in the shopping cart in their Amazon. But there was some problems with
People are carrying in a bag of rocks.
something like that. Yeah, who knows? But there's a bunch of problems.
Indiana
All right.
Jones with the with the
Yeah, like the
switched out.
All right, let's get back to this digital ID. So digital IDs is just facial recognition. They've been talking about that since the whole 5G thing started,
Well,
where
it's
you'll be
like-
able to do everything with just the recognition of your face. But what does that have to do with the price of tea in China or Canada or Mexico?
One quick final point. The Can-Am was what I was trying to remember.
Oh, all right, Canada's
the
got it.
Can-Am.
I didn't realize that was from Canada. So
Yeah, they're made by
solid fucking
Bombardier.
side by side. Great.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey,
all right.
Bombardier, if you'd like to send us one to evaluate, we'll see if we can work the tariff thing out for you.
it really has nothing to do with the tariffs, but I was just saying that it will be Canada and it will be. maybe
You think they're going to be
Mexico.
a 51st state, or they're going to join the United States?
Yeah.
Why? What's the benefit to us to have more people that are?
Socialized. They're a very socialized country, so where it wouldn't, in that regard, it wouldn't be beneficial to us because we don't want more socialization.
Right.
We already have a huge welfare state and socialized everything, and they're even more socialized. So you're taking even all that left wing base who want free stuff, who have free stuff, and then you're putting that on the American taxpayer because we objectively have more people than them. So
Right, yeah.
we'd be paying more
Unless
into it.
unless we made them conform to our way of life, but then at that point they'd be affecting elections immediately.
Yeah.
and be causing a ton of different issues. I agree. I think it's a disaster bringing them in, but you still think it's going to happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just not right away, but definitely, yeah, I think so. Canada's definitely going to be taken, and then also Mexico eventually. But they need Mexico to get everybody to accept the digital ID. So all they need is a couple more headlines saying, "Hey, the immigrants are raping children," or just like that, and everybody will want them because they say, "Hey, we can track every person now." That's why I think they need to hold off on Mexico.
Interesting. I don't think we want anything to do with Mexico, frankly.
No.
I think
No.
that's a disaster unless you want to run a crime family.
I think it's crazy how they just are still, in a way, seem so willing to let the border be. It's not as open, maybe, as it was, but the president has the ability to put U.S. military forces on the border, shut it down, and actually start deporting people. But they're not doing that. They've done that for hundreds of years prior to like the 1900s. Also with like examples of deporting massive amounts of Mexicans. Presidents before did it. Roosevelt, Hoover, and a couple other ones from that time.
So did
Did
you guys
it.
hear today on that topic? The judge that was trying to say that it was illegal for them to be shipping off immigrants, but they wanted to actually turn planes around that were on the way over, but they ended up they pushed the planes through anyway. I believe they disobeyed the order, but now they're trying to say that that Trump's in contempt because of this. But that was something that just came out today. Did you see that?
No, I did not. So what, they sent the planes back here?
They tried. We were. I mean, they've been deporting people,
Yeah.
and we talk about the border. And I think it was announced during Trump's speech a couple of weeks ago, 850 total border crossings last month.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, compared to the tens of thousands that were
Yeah.
being brought in beforehand, that's a significant, a good thing. But yeah, so recently, I was trying to pull up the thing here.
From today. There's several releases on it, but yeah, federal judge barred Trump admin Saturday from carrying out deportations under the sweeping 18th century law that the president invoked hours earlier. And then it didn't say
So apparently, in the court filing that was filed 7/26, they'd already been removed from the U.S. territory. Oopsie, too late, said President Nayib Bukele, who agreed to house the 300 immigrants for a year at at a cost of $6 million in his country's prison. Wrote on the social media site. Great, so we're paying that, I'm sure. Sent over 250 alien enemy members of the Tren de Aragua, which El Salvador has agreed to hold in their very good jails as a fair price. Will also save our taxpayer dollars.
Just to pause, and I guess just, let's check the sanity at the table here first. Have you guys traveled outside the country before?
Have not.
Yes.
No?
I've been to the Dominican Republic.
Okay, that's
So-
out of the country, so that counts. I just asked just because, the three of us have traveled out of the country together, so I already know they have. But we have an upcoming trip. We have passports already, but even though we have passports and we can legally travel, we're going to one country in particular where we've got to register ahead of time and get, an extra part of the visa for an approval to go there. Like, what do you think would happen if, we decided, well, shit, let's just stay here. Let's not go home. What happens to us in whatever country on the map? What happens to us? What do you think?
Well, obviously, like you say, you just have to apply for whatever their visa is, and
No, let's say we don't do that. Let's just say we decide, fuck it, we're staying.
well, I'm assuming after whatever time period you're cleared there for,
Yeah.
they would most likely maybe
Yeah, like a tourism visa
get
is
you and
generally
kick you out.
30 days at a time. You can apply for an extended 6 months, 1 year. You can get an artist visa or a working visa for, I think maybe 3 years max, I think is what you can get, if you have no business there or anything. But I guess what I'm getting at is we could be the only country that thinks it's a good idea. Just well, they're already here. And we might as well give them a cell phone and some health care and food and money. And then now we've got to fly them back home at our expense. And then we've got to pay another country to house them after we've removed them from our country. Does anybody think that that's a good idea?
I honestly think that they should. See, this could be actually controversial, but I honestly think that they shouldn't be exactly kicked out. I think they should be helped to get the visa. Because when you inject all those immigrants, a lot of the construction workforce is immigrants. Think about it. Mexican labor. Think about it.
So I'm originally from Southern California, so I know all about imported labor more so than I think.
I walked by about 50 to 60 of them every day on my way to fourth grade elementary class.
Also from
Southern California
as well.
And they were cheap. But it also drove my dad's construction company back to Ohio because of the fact, he wasn't going to hire illegal immigrants. He hired union workers with years of experience. So, it was very easy to get undercut by 20 to 30% on a job. And this was in 1996. So you flash forward to 2025, a 20 to 30% undercut on a job could be hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of a year. It'll destroy a small business because somebody's willing to hire those illegal immigrants. I get it. You're saying, I don't think we should eject them because of the fact that, they're a part of our economy now. They're a part of the way that we do business. They do some of the low end jobs that nobody else wants to do. But I think Trump's always said from the beginning is, well, that's the fucking problem, right? 16-year-old kids should be doing some of these jobs. 22-year-old kids should be doing this job.
Yeah.
They should be getting a decent wage, not an over-exaggerated one. They should be getting a decent wage. Employers should be paying a fair price for that labor. They should be giving them an opportunity to have benefits. These are people that should be regenerating revenue inside the community at other additional stores and things like that. And that's how that's what America's built off of, right? The idea that you can have, I don't know if you guys have been to Southern California. My uncles owned multiple complexes out there, apartment complexes. The idea that somebody could cross the border, illegally, work for somebody for $6, $7, $8 an hour cash under the table. Yeah, it's great for that company. And then them and 20 other family members are living in a 1-bedroom studio apartment in Ontario. And nothing good happens at those apartment complexes when you have 4 and 5 times the amount of people living there that they should be. That's living in a very what's the word? Poverty stricken. It's nothing good happens to that, and that doesn't do anything for that local community. Because then, like I said, I lived in Victorville, Hesperia at a point in time, 4th grade, where 4th grader walking to school, you know, I shouldn't be passing like 50 illegal immigrants riding on the side of the road talking about I'll work for $1 an hour or $2 an hour or whatever it was back then. So how is that? What does that do then to my grandmother's property value that's in the area that's been there for 30 years? When some new couple moves in and says, hey, we're interested in buying a house. Well, just so you know, when your kid goes to school, this is what he has to pass every day. This is like the stuff that's happened over the day. So you can say all that you want to be about illegal immigrants. It's not to say that all of them are bad. Like, I'd like to think that if I went and visited Mexico, they'd be like, dude, I'm glad the gringo came down here. He's a cool fucking dude. But ultimately, like, if I'm just a mooch on their society and then I bring more mooches with me and then we together create crime and we create issues for the local community, we prevent growth, we drop values, like, how's that good for an overall country if that happens in multiple locations? Because to David's point, Southern California, you know more than anybody. Anybody that's been in Southern California since the 80s knows that's been an issue and that it was only going to get worse. But now if you're starting to see it in places like Ohio and Indiana and Pennsylvania, now it's
here. It's here. For
yeah.
sure,
So
yeah.
now it's starting to take over, you know, and I remember I had an ex that lived in Maine and Somalians immigration were up there where it was a big deal. And like, so then it starts to take over a whole country. Well, now all of a sudden we talk about an area that's overpopulated. There's not enough stuff. It drives up costs. It drives up expenses. Welfare state's worse than ever. We give away more money than we bring in. Well, what do you think caused all that? It starts from the very beginning of like, if we would have controlled our country better. And, you know, David's brought it up. You bring up a country like China. Like, you think China's people would stand for that shit? Like, absolutely fucking not, you know?
No. Yeah.
Like, their government would be kicking you out. If you showed up there with 200 Americans, like, we're just going to live off your land, like, they'd kick your ass out or you'd disappear you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think when we talk about illegal immigrants, there's a lot more to the aspect of it than just like it's not fair to kick them out. It's also not fair to the Americans that live in those areas that they stay.
There, you know, and circling that back, I mean, yeah, our country was built on immigration, so I understand that, and we have a legal process for that. But you just have an open border where they can just come in and then they're getting services and unnecessary services better than, you know, veterans that I know that are not getting, you know, an equivalent level of services that, you know, gave up their lives, you know, for our country, as opposed to people that just swam across or walked across or in, you know, during
Got drug across, put in a trailer and brought over in a Connex.
They've flown over, you know, by the, you know, CBP1 Uber app that was available to fly them here from the last administration. Like, so with all of that, so do I feel that, you know, like we should just, you know, round them up and, you know, bury them in the desert? No, I don't. But I think, you know, these people need to be just as if, you know, China's a good example. If we go to China, you want to talk about just complete polar opposite. When you go to China, it doesn't matter where you go, but you can count on the fact that you're going to pass through no less than probably 10 security checkpoints just in arrival. So, you know, you're going to pass checkpoints getting out of the country. And then when you land, everywhere you go, including your hotel, like, they know exactly who you are, where you're going, what you had for lunch. Like,
Can I cut you off for a second? I got something for you. I want to hear everybody's guess. What percentage of China's population do you think is non-China born, meaning they were born from a different country?
What percent's not?
What percentage of their population was born outside of China?
Like 5%.
I would say less than 1%.
I'd also say less than 1%.
3%.
Is 0.7%. 0.7% of their population was born outside. So, representing less than 0.1%. I'm sorry, China has surprisingly low number of foreign-born residents, with only about 1 million immigrants, representing less than 0.1% of the overall population. That's fucking nuts, dude.
They will welcome you in just about everywhere in China, but you are going to be there legally, and you are going to leave when they tell you to leave. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like this system where we say, look, we'd like you to leave, maybe. Mm-hmm. You need to get the hell out of here, possibly. That's sort of how we deliver that message.
But that's also why I think that they're making a big scene about this immigration crisis, is so they can implement the same thing China has: the checkpoints, the digital IDs, and all that stuff. So hey, we can track them now, but it's actually tracking everybody now. Now you got mass surveillance everywhere because I believe that AI governance is coming. in which AI governance, which is the digital IDs, the mass surveillance, the social credit score. I mean, you got Elon Musk saying, the thing to combat climate change is a social credit score. That's him saying that on X. So, and I believe that a lot of people say that the World Economic Forum isn't in cahoots with Trump, but I believe it all is. I believe that's what he's going to bring on. I think that's why they're getting rid of the government, to shrink it so AI governance actually takes over. So everybody cheers for it, opposed to saying, hey, we're going to take down the government and we're going to have digital IDs and the AI governance is actually going to govern us all. So I know it sounds crazy.
I mean, nothing's impossible right now. By the way, 14% of the U.S. population is foreign born. So just to kind of give you a little bit of a difference between us and China.
We're also the only country that has birthright citizenship. So
Yes.
basically, we always...
That's not true. I mean, there's some other countries that do some stuff different, like Italy, Greece, a couple others. They do citizenship based off of family history, actually. So you can become a dual citizen in Greece if you can prove that you have lineage from Greece.
But literally, the United States, if your mother was born in Russia and she was flying over the U.S. while she was pregnant with you and she fell out of the airplane and smacked into the earth and you were born, you are a U.S. citizen automatically right there. We're the only country that has that.
All right, I gotta Google that.
Google that. Mom is flying on an airplane, pregnant, falls out of the airplane, smacks the earth, you squirt out, you're a U.S. citizen.
All right. This is as of 2020. Unconditional at birth. Actually, Canada, U.S., Mexico, Venezuela. What else is in Southern America? Brazil. Fucking UI. No idea what that is. AR. No idea. So essentially, all of the Americans, all the Americas, and then it looks like, I don't know if that's Pakistan, maybe actually.
We need to get Mo on the phone.
TZ and AO. What do you think those are?
Tanzania.
That's what I was actually thinking of.
And,
So there's a couple other places
AO
that
is
offer
Angola.
it. No
Lovely
birth.
countries.
Almost all of Asia, no birthright citizenship.
No.
None. So yeah, there's that in Russia.
So,
none of that in Russia. either.
Anyway, so I guess back to we're a country that was built on immigration. So I think it's important to have that. I think it's important to, especially with us, we're not having children at rates that we once were. So like we need to build a population because these other countries are building. China, they're fucking. And they're popping kids out.
Well, and here that goes back to the original whole part of this debate was, we talked about tariffs. We're way fucking off topic, but what impact do tariffs have on us and other countries, et cetera? Like the idea though is that this is all to make our country better. We've been caring about everybody else for far too long between our shitty, weak ass, ungoverned immigration statuses to the way that we overtax our own people, but we lose trade deals across the world with all our other trade partners because we've always looked at it as like, oh, America is so great and powerful. We need to take care of other people and be easier on them. And some of that's used in negotiations though, right? Like, let's be honest, like part of that's of a negotiation tactic. Like maybe it helped end a war or a dispute 5, 6, 20, 40, 50 years ago. Maybe it helped us gain influence inside of another country so then we can manipulate their government to do something that we wanted them to do. Like, there's reason for these deals, and unfortunately as a civilian, we don't get access to why these things are done. And for those that are listening to, make sure you like, share, comment, let us know your opinion on immigration and tariffs. But a lot of this comes down to people hear me talking. They'll be like, oh, you're just Trump everything. Trump's the greatest. Like, I have plenty of fucking shit that I despise about Trump right now. Like, where are my Epstein files? Where are my JFK files? Like, why is this war in Ukraine and Russia still going on? I thought you had the inside track that was something that was going to get on. So there's a lot of other things that I'm disappointed in Trump that haven't gotten done yet that we can get into because I'm interested to hear what everybody else's thoughts on that. And I think a lot of that goes back into, and we talked about Ukraine last week or 2 weeks ago, but now talking about, Israel and what Netanyahu and his fucking, bully system is doing over there in the Middle East, where he's trying to take over the Middle East with the United States backing him, and how that all ties in. You want to talk conspiracies, Anthony? How about the fact that Israel and fucking Epstein are probably the reason that we're not getting the Epstein files right now?
Well, Epstein and Diddy are actually Israel agents. with the whole thing about Diddy and Epstein,
Like our vice president.
Truth bomb just got
they're all
dropped.
compromised, in my opinion. I think every single Hollywood. I think the Epstein and Diddy, they were Israel agents to get dirt for blackmail, and I believe that Trump is also compromised now. In 2016, I was for him, but I believe that now he is compromised. I believe that he's not going to save America. He's actually going to bankrupt America, and it's going to cause the digital currency come.
So I don't think that he'll bring in. I don't think he'll bankrupt our country because I think a lot of our movies.
Well, crash the dollar to the point where because they're already talking about crypto. I mean, crypto's been a thing for a while now, but you're talking him. He's now coming out and talking about XRP, Bitcoin. He's talking about all this. So I think his role is to crash the dollar and bring out the digital currency, which then ties back to the digital IDs, ties back to the mass surveillance. It's just straight. It is like technocratic. It really is.
Well, I mean, as AI starts to develop, what you got, Ryan?
I don't think Trump necessarily wants that to happen. He could fall for a ploy to create that, but all of those things are things that the reason why people voted for Trump was to not have those things. The American worker has felt let down, crushed for the last however many decades it is because of our policies, importing cheap labor, like we talked about, and stuff like that. But you have to ask, what's the root cause of all of that? What created the situation that we have where we are undercutting workers, importing cheap labor, and stuff like that? And all of that stuff was done intentionally over the last couple years, or not couple years, but the last few decades. It was intentionally done. The government chose to do that as I financialized the economy and did all this stuff. And I think in Trump's mind, and maybe part of his cabinet, tariffs are like a brute way of bringing back manufacturing, bringing back American-made stuff and American-made jobs, because they wanted to do it quickly instead of gradually. If you want to do it's something that takes time regardless.
Sure.
But by doing tariffs, they think that they could just bully companies right off the bat instead of creating the incentive structure to just have it occur naturally. Because like you said, when they created NAFTA in the 1990s and that's what started undercutting the American workers and shipping jobs overseas.
Of course.
That created it. So you have to get rid of that and reestablish the incentive structure in America.
So have you guys ridden jet skis before?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ridden jet skis?
So I have a story about that.
I like my funny analogies here, but you're riding a jet ski and when it's just at idle, you're not on plane, you're just kind of in the water and you can do whatever you want with the wheel. You can turn this way, that way. But so what happens when you're full throttle and you're doing 50, 60 on it and you're just gliding? What happens if you crank the wheel as far left as it goes? What happens?
Oh, yeah, you're going forward and the jet ski's getting left behind.
You're going forward.
Yeah,
you fly off.
out.
You fly off, and it's pretty painful, right? So
Definitely.
you know that, right? So, man, that's the easiest analogy I can come up with to think about how to shift the economy. Is right now we're on the jet ski at full throttle going, and the things that we want changed are that very quick. We need to change these things in a hurry. We need to stop people from coming in over the border. I think a certain percentage of these people are killing us. They're bringing fentanyl. Some of that is for that's part of the scenery, or that's part of the theater of the messaging that they're given. But the economy, you really have to make that turn gradual as opposed to cranking it. Otherwise, you and your partner are going off, and it's going to be painful. So I think all of these things need to be addressed, but they have to be done in a way. And we're going to talk a little bit about NATO, and it's the same thing, I think, with that. If you shut it off, there's going to be this cranking of the wheel and everything goes flying off of it in a bad way. But
so I agree. The issue is, though, right? Let's talk about the first 60 days Trump's in office. He starts enacting all these different things. Just last week, he stopped all aid to Ukraine, correct? Which then forces the ceasefire, which is where we're at now. And now he's like, oh, well, now Russia's not playing ball because they want certain things. One of those things is guarantees that Ukraine will never be allowed to enter NATO. They want, what's it called? Kiev back?
Yeah.
Wait, Kiev is in Russia, right?
Kiev is the capital of Ukraine.
Okay, it's the other one around then. What's the other one? Whatever. Fucking some crazy city. He wants right now. He's got Ukrainian forces basically surrender their.
Oh, at Kursk, you're talking about
Kursk.
Kursk.
Yes.
Yeah. Kursk.
And he's got their. I mean, they essentially. So he's either wants them to go ahead and turn themselves in, surrender, or basically he's just going to kill them all. So he doesn't want to cease fire until that's taken care of. He doesn't want to cease fire until this is taken care of. So,
Yeah.
But you did the right thing when you cut off aid to Ukraine.
Because now it forces him to come to the table.
Right,
and
but
negotiate.
then they come to the table and you shut it back off again, or you turn it back on
There you
again,
go.
and you
Yeah.
give a little bit back, and it's like, no, you had the right
Yeah,
idea.
keep it off.
Like
No
just
more.
keep it off.
Turn
Like
it
no
off.
more. Once again, this is the things that you said you were going to do that we wanted. Like yes, the first 6 months, 12 months was going to be tough because you have multiple wars going on. You got, and I just saw something the other day that, or just a few minutes ago, that now Israel is gone against their ceasefire against the Palestinians a couple days ago. Killed like 9-10 Palestinians. So you've got that going on. You've got Ukraine going on. You've got all these tariff wars that you started with all these other countries, which most of them have fallen into line and just whatever, they're going to have to do what they're told to do. But here you make a great step. Something good happens. And then I can't help but think this comes back into the Defense Department. This comes into the politicians, the bureaucratic bullshit that we all hate. And now you turn the lever back on, and here we are. We're at a stalemate. So what's going to happen? Well, now Russia's going to get pissed if you start rearming Ukrainians and they start fortifying their numbers and signifying that, hey, here's this peace agreement. We said we're going to do this temporary ceasefire, but all you did is use that time to basically bolster your lines. So, I mean, Putin's not a fucking idiot. For those who say, I'm a Putin apologist or that I'm a pro-Russian, or somebody actually accused us of getting paid by the Russian government, which, by the way, if there's any oligarchs out there that want to donate a yacht, couple of pickup trucks, maybe you want to buy us a couple of Can-Am Canadians, we're happy to take your money and say the same exact shit. Like
the mayor's wife chick from Moscow who gave Hunter Biden all that money, like, she got a daughter or something with money. Like, I'm available. I'm just saying, and I'm like a quarter Russian, so let's go.
But this is where it gets frustrating for me, who voted for Trump, who started to see that first 60 days of all these things going right, and then now we're going backwards.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What happened to Hillary? What happened to lock her up? It's 10 years later, nothing happened.
Well, I mean, I think he did the right thing.
Yeah, he responded.
I think he said, he was like, at that point, like, what's the point if we're putting presidents and their future, their wives back into the.
Yeah, he literally.
Just like,
said
I don't
that.
think he's going to go after Joe Biden. I think there's plenty of reason to go after Joe Biden, but who's going to put a 90-year-old man who's like not able to say his own name straight? Like,
No,
in
they're all
jail?
friends. That's my belief. They're all friends. They're all working together. Just like the left and the right. It's the same.
I mean, they
it's
are
the same
friends.
bird.
It's no
just different
different.
wings.
Like, it's no different than if you get in trouble and you have to go to court and you're a defense attorney that you're paying thousands of millions or whatever dollars for whatever you cause. It's like he knows the judge, he knows the prosecuting attorney. They're having drinks. They're talking about the case, talking about what you can agree with getting away with. Of course.
Yeah.
And politics are the same thing. I think that could Hillary have gotten locked up? Yeah, I do. Which we can talk about. Julian, what's his name here?
Assange.
And the fact that I think he's still locked up right now.
No,
Yeah, real truther.
Julian Assange, he got set free.
But he's not allowed back in our country. He's still
He's free in Australia.
Yeah.
He pleaded guilty to whatever bogus charges so
Yeah.
he could get the deal and be free.
right. But so I don't
Even though
agree.
he didn't commit a crime.
Nothing at all. Did nothing wrong. And that's the thing. Like, so when we talk about, are they all friends? I do agree they're friends. Do they all agree with each other all the time? No. But it goes back to there's still something going on behind closed doors that we don't get privy to knowledge of. And it involves fucking over the American citizens, and it involves different wars. Like, another topic of fucking yesterday, Trump pulls I'm going to fucking squash the fucking Houthis, fucking completely nukes or bombs a bunch of their fucking sites and stuff like that.
And that was the ceasefire then that we violated.
Correct.
That they've had for over a year now.
Well, but
Stopped.
over that last year, there's been 100+ attacks on U.S. ships and cargo and stuff like that.
Well, that was the ceasefire between the Houthis and like the Saudis. Because I don't know if you knew about the Saudis have been bombing Yemen for almost a decade now, prior to like a couple years ago when they enacted the ceasefire. And that was one of the worst genocides ever in the last like 20 years with the amount of people that they were killing. And we were funding that. Barack Obama started that. Trump didn't stop it when he came in the first time. And it wasn't until like the last year and a half where they finally worked out a ceasefire deal between that to stop that mass slaughter of people.
There's a genocide going on in our country, in my opinion. I mean, Operation Warp Speed. You think about it.
Oh, you're talking about the
Yeah, the C-19 shot. I mean, that was worldwide. and people cheer like, oh, he made it, he banned it for kids to do it in school. It's too late now. Why don't you just ban it everywhere? Like, why are we just doing it in the school? Like that's the main reasons why I do not like Trump is because of Operation Warp Speed.
But I mean, he didn't implement half of the procedures that happened in place during the Biden presidency.
Correct. I mean, the people.
All he did, he thought he was doing something good by creating a vaccine. Like, I mean, I don't think it is until really he came into contact with RFK that he actually understood the damage that those vaccines.
But then you got RFK saying that Operation Warp Speed was the greatest accomplishment by Donald Trump. So
I never heard him say
so
that.
RFK Jr. is like flip flopping now.
I've never heard RFK say that.
Yeah, he said
RFK.
he did an amazing job, and it was a great leadership.
So let me devil's advocate that question while you're looking that up there. In that, do you think that was a Trump agenda, or do you think that was somebody else's agenda, and then Trump went along with it because he thought it was the right thing to do? Like, do you think Trump is really that intelligent and that masterful to come up with that? And if he is, what does he gain from it?
Well, the media likes to spin that it was Fauci that did it. But I believe he knew what the shots were, and I believe he knew that COVID wasn't a real pandemic, like what a pandemic really is. I mean, when you think of pandemic, you think people falling over in the streets. You think hospitals actually being filled and not having nurses doing TikToks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all we can do is look at history. So if we go back to, influenza, for instance, which did kill, what in its initial pass was something like 50 million people or something worldwide. Like, so I guess, it's that if you're at a ball game and all of a sudden you notice a couple people are just running out of the stadium, it's no big deal. But if all of a sudden you notice like everybody's running out of the stadium and you don't understand why, your natural instinct is like, oh shit, we better run out of here because something must be about to happen, right? And you see so many people going. I think, really what's happening at the upper top echelon of government, we will never know, just like we don't know what the CEO of Ford is doing right now. Like, so we don't know exactly what's really, really going on in our government. But I do believe that there's plenty of things that happen outside of just the president of the U.S., arguably the most powerful man in the world, but maybe he's not. No. Maybe the top 20 wealthiest people on the planet are far more powerful because they could create something that looks and feels like a pandemic and starts everybody in the stadium running to where now the whole world is like, we better run. That's what I believe. Like, I think your feelings about a president, anybody's like Biden or Trump or anybody, like that's all part of what's been fed by the media and by the zeitgeist, if you will. But like, I don't think that a president could architect something like that. I think he was in the stadium running with us, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, to put that into motion and the idea that I don't even think half of it originally started out to where that this was the idea of what they could get. I think it was something that came out and they're like, shit, this is an opportunity to take advantage of some things. Money, control. Right. And it's funny because like while everybody wanted all this control to be offered to, Biden and them when they were in office specifically, nobody thought about it like, well, what about that being the ultimate opposite of this, 5 years from now? So like it's funny when people compare like Republicans today or Trump to a Nazi, which by the way, for any of you guys comparing our politics to Nazism, like you can go fuck yourself, like right off the cliff. Like that is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like how something so gruesome as killing 10 million people by starving, gassing, torturing, medical experimenting on, like, can be compared to American politics now because we're deporting a couple of people is fucking disgusting. But yet that's the argument that everybody wants to try and make now. Is that it is the case, and it's not. Unfortunately, if we were run as a dictatorship, things might actually go a lot better than they are. But the fact that it is a capitalist market and it is the democracy, like
George W. Bush said that exact same thing, by the way, during his second term.
It's not fucking wrong. Like if you had a smart fucking person running the country and you could bypass the 150 or the 51 votes that you need in the Senate and the 151 votes you need in the in the House, and you could just get rid of all those politicians that are getting their pockets fed, and you just had one man getting rich. Like, we could afford to pay for one man to get rich while he fucking makes some things happen. But
right now, that's our system right now is paying thousands, if not tens of thousands of people to get rich, as opposed to just one person.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny when people compare this current regime to Nazism, because if anything, the idea that during COVID people were forced to quit their jobs or be fired by companies because they didn't take a vaccine. People were forced to take a vaccine in order to go to places to eat or to do these different things, or, you know, the fact that our president could literally come out and just say it's because of the unvaccinated, to essentially really just justify the fact, like, oh, you guys could do whatever you want to them because they're like the unvaccinated. But now today we want to argue about who's getting kicked out of our country that's here illegally, what they're doing while they're here, and everything in between. But I think that's where it comes into now, is like, look how many times we've jumped topics, right? As we're sitting here talking about this, and we haven't even talked about, we haven't really talked about Ukraine, Russia a whole lot. We have the one we just talked about with, forgive me, but the Houthis being exploded on. We have Israel and the Palestinians going on. We have our own issues now with Canada when it comes to tariffs, as well as other countries. Then we have our border issues where we've been fighting. So, like, all these different things, like, we're quickly just spreading ourselves so thin that once again, it's going to be a 4 years that's going to fly by and nothing's going to get accomplished. And I want my Epstein records, damn it.
Never happened.
I want my
That's never
Epstein
gonna happen.
records.
That's never gonna happen. That's
I
not
want
gonna
my
happen.
freaking, what's the other one? My JFK files. At this point, we already know Israel's probably involved in both.
100%.
And that's exactly why this stuff's not coming out, because they're in a war right now. And if they come out and prove that, then nobody's going to want to support them. And you can't say you don't support Israel, God forbid, because it's full of Jews. And that means you hate Jews if you don't support Israel, which means you're Nazi Hitler. And it's like, I just can't say anything without pissing somebody off.
Israel was never a state either. They got hijacked by the Rothschilds. Can you look up the date?
Yeah.
When Israel was
You
founded?
mean when it was run by the mob?
Yeah, go look up when Israel was
1948,
founded. Was it?
1948,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was 48.
While you're looking at that, just to close out the
Yeah, 1948.
the Biden and Nazism and Trump comments, the one that's really been sort of like buried is the executive order that President Joe Biden signed November 2nd, 2021. And that was the executive order that required all federal employees and contractors be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 by November 22nd, 2021 and December 8th, 2021, respectively. And the alternative was termination. And he specifically went on air at the time and said, we are working on an executive order to include all Americans. So I don't have that news clip like ready to rock, but I know you guys remember that. But so,
Of course.
So stop and think about that. We have this system in America of our legal system. And, you know, if you disagree with a law, okay, you can potentially change that with votes and all of that. Nazi Germany, you had, you know, the chancellor who could make decisions unilaterally and just make changes with what he felt the law was. So it's just, you know, it's like the irony here of, oh, remember her? Circle back. But
Yeah.
the irony here of, you know, the side of the political system that wants to refer to the other side that is operating, following the law. This is the law. We're going to follow the law. You come here illegally, we're going to send you home. That's
Right.
That's pretty cut and dry. It doesn't suck that they're going to be put, you know, in trains or whatever, and, you know, they're going to be separated from their families. Yeah, it doesn't feel great, but it's still the law. You follow the law. But you don't have to follow the law if you believe that you know better than the law and that you should force all these people to take this experimental medication or lose your job.
No, that's wrong. That's wrong.
Yeah.
And just because I don't like Operation Warp Speed
Eric, you guys hear
doesn't mean that I
For
like
legally
it.
recognized reasons, such
Just
as
wanna get that
disability or
clear.
religious objections. I know you have all seen the reporting on this, but let me just give you a few top lines of it. So how this will work is the task force, the interagency task force, will provide a ramp-up period, and we expect federal employees will have about 75 days to be fully vaccinated. That gives people more than enough time, in our view, to start and complete their vaccination series. If a federal federal worker fails to comply, they will go through the standard HR process, which includes counseling and face disciplinary action, face progressive disciplinary action. Each agency is going to work with employees to make sure they understand the benefits of vaccination and how the vaccines are free, easy, and widely accessible. But it will start to be applied once the
Free.
executive order is signed.
And easily accessible. And quickly poisoning yourself for your long period. So, is anybody at this table vaccinated? Just out of curiosity.
No, I had to be.
You had to be.
We got to understand. I work with beer and people, so our company was either get vaccinated or find a new job.
Did you, when you decided to make that decision, did you have time? Was it like if you didn't do it by whatever time, like they set a time for?
Yeah, they set a time. Yeah, our company our thing was first they recommended it, and then then they said if you work with people, work with food, work with drink, you have to get it done. Because I work with people, I work with drinks, because I'm around people all day. Because I work for Miller Lite, so I'm going to bars.
Just outed yourself.
Yeah,
Or you just outed your employer.
well, I met Miller Lite, but there's a bunch of other beer distributors that do. So.
Miller Lite forces all to be vaccinated.
Yep.
It's Nazism.
Yeah, well, it's they
Boycotting Miller Lite, which we never drink anyway.
Don't even drink Miller Lite.
No, it's all the beer companies. Most of the beer companies that I was understanding you had to be vaccinated, or you had to wear either a mask the whole time, or there's a bunch of policies.
Coercive measures
Yeah.
to make you do it, basically.
Yeah.
So I have a family member, I won't say which one, and I won't say where he works, other than he works for the federal government, and he was required to be vaccinated. He was in a situation where, he's the breadwinner of his family for his wife and 2 children and has a pretty big mortgage. So he was faced with that same decision. You either have to get this or you're going to be fired.
So the company that I worked for previous,
Hold on, there's a punchline there, because now he has myocarditis. He was in perfect health before this happened, by the way. He now has myocarditis. He's also going to be on blood pressure regulators for the rest of his life.
Yeah, that fucking sucks.
I also heard that it's AIDS too.
What?
The vaccine's causing AIDS. That's what I heard. Yeah.
Anthony with his random
Bill Gates.
highlights. I got fortunate. So the company that I worked for previous to where I do now, super woke. I guarantee they would have required a vaccination, and I was getting worried about it honestly because they just acquired us. And I was like, fuck, are they going to make it? And we work from home for the most part, but we do travel. And I was like, man, if they make me get a vaccination, I don't know what I'm going to do. Because I was not going to be one to get a vaccination. Not because I wanted to fight the system or buck the system, but one, I hadn't been sick for the first year. In fact, that's not true. I think it started in March. So I didn't get sick at all. November, Thanksgiving, some in-laws come in, or I guess not in-laws, cousins, mom and dad come in from Boston. They're vaccinated. He's vaccinated. Most of my wife's family, none of us were vaccinated. So there's 12 of us, 3 of them. And they had Thanksgiving dinner. They wanted to do Thanksgiving dinner. We're like, fine, whatever. Well, we get there and there's conspicuous, there's a little COVID test on the counter in the kitchen. I'm like, what the fuck? Somebody's got COVID. Somebody's got it. Didn't think anything of it. Next day, my wife is ready to die. And then by the end of the day, I started to get weak and sick. So I was over in 24 hours. I got lucky. But we did all get COVID from vaccinated people. Family who judged us for not being vaccinated.
That's
I thought that
impossible.
wasn't supposed to happen.
But right. But then it happened and it was over and it was done with. So I was like, anytime after that vaccine was mentioned, I'm like, why would I get a vaccine?
I just remember Biden on TV, you're being selfish. People are going to die.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they just they were told that they could go, and I couldn't argue with this. I'm not allowed to argue with my wife's family because they would probably find a reason to say that they're going to heaven because of that, whatever. But anyhow, I didn't have a choice, and I didn't just catch it naturally. They knew they had it. They had a test on their kitchen counter. Somebody definitely didn't feel quite right. but they thought because they were vaccinated
They were
that it
okay.
was okay.
Yeah.
So they brought over a bunch of other people, had a little get together, and they were super spreaders.
Well, no,
100% of us got it, dude. Every one of us got COVID that week. It was all like broken out. Like I got it the day after, my wife got it the next day, and then like her brother and sister got it like a couple of days after that. But it was like boom, 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 boom. It was like knocked us all out for a couple of days, and it's like, I'm glad you guys got vaccinated. Like we all knew it too. We're like the fucking vaccinated people.
well, there was also I have a friend. He was very like, you have to be vaccinated, even for the vaccination. He had a party, and he said 2 days before going to the party, you had to submit a COVID test.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Friendship.
I was like, what? I was like, what are you joking with me? You're gonna like literally the party's outside, first off. And
I don't care where it's at.
I was like, set it off. I'm like, you want us to all, and he invited over like 60 people to this party. So he wanted everyone to submit a COVID like test, either from his doctor or one of those quick tests. Take a picture and send it to him via email or text.
So fucking stupid.
I was like, what?
What were you about to say, Ryan?
So I think there was either a study or multiple studies that showed that people who got vaccinated and then as you got vaccinated multiple times, you were more likely to get COVID and or spread it than someone who wasn't vaccinated. I forget what the study was, but I'm pretty sure there was a study on that. And to tie it all together with the COVID stuff, that was an example of what actual fascism was like. Like that happened, we instituted it, and for a long time, a lot of people were completely okay with that happening and going along with it and being coerced or whatever it was to living in that type of a society.
It had no problem telling you that you were wrong. Like I remember being in a gas station without a mask on, and this was probably like July, August.
Oh, that's
And like,
too. People are acting crazy, man.
and literally some lady's like, just so you know, you're endangering all of us in here because you don't have a mask on. I was like, well, if you guys all have masks, aren't you safe?
Correct.
That's not the point. And I'm like, what is? I don't know what you want from me, lady. Can you just give me I'm gonna go smoke this Black and Mild right quick. Blow it in your face.
But that's what the media does.
Yeah.
There's people.
It's a testament to how powerful the propaganda machine is with whatever it is, whether it was the COVID narrative and the COVID lies, and then that shifting right into Russia, Ukraine, and then shifting right into the Israel Gaza situation, and you pick your next wherever it goes. Like that's how it works, and then people they catch those. Well, normal people, a lot of people don't have time to look into things, be informed or whatever, so they catch a 5-minute clip of the news and they think they're getting the news from the news, but really they're just getting propaganda and government lies and scripts.
Yeah, that's the biggest, fallacy there is, news is, really a misbranding. It's not news. And you can say it's propaganda. It definitely is in some corners of it, but media is a business, and their success is really fear is number one.
Yeah.
It's at the top of the list. Like that motivates. And sure, I think and Will was sort of mentioning that like the whole COVID rollout plan was something that was on a shelf already. Like that was already written and just kind of waiting. Like I don't think that, we woke up, whomever the decision makers are, I don't think they woke up, in the early part of 2020 and said, all right, here's how we're going to start this whole thing. I think it was more along the lines of this thing was playing out. Like, it's real. People were definitely sick.
Of course.
But I think they took this playbook off the shelf and said, now's the time we can do it with this. And then the media's role in this, I don't think it's quite as dark and as grim as some want to believe. Maybe it is. I don't know. But my personal belief is that because if I own a media company, how am I getting paid? I'm getting paid by people I need eyeballs and I need clicks. It used to just be I need to turn the TV on. I need people to go to the TV to pay attention. anytime so when we find out that we're bombing the Houthis, what do? We go to our phones oh, I got to see this. I got to, understand this.
Well, then you got to spend an hour deciphering which one you want to read and which information you're going to gather from it, and then where you're going to go for your second source, your third source, your fourth source. And that's us because we wanted to actually be able to talk about it on the show today. So we were like, hey, we need to dive into this a little bit. Where most people are going to read the first article that pops on their phone, which is going to be based off of their search habits, based off of their biases, and then they're just going to get a one-way look at it.
Yeah.
They're going to take the headline and the first 3 or 4 sentences of that post, right? So after that, whatever else the article could say doesn't matter. That's what they're going to gather from it. And you mentioned you're not sure what the role of the media is. You don't think it's that dark. I think the role of the media is to continue to get us to pick a team.
Correct. Keep us divided.
Well, I say yes and no. I say that their role is to generate revenue, and they know.
But 80% of their revenue comes from advertisement from big pharma.
Yeah.
So as long as they get enough, you know what I mean. So it's it's this whole circle of how they pay. I'll give you a great example of this whole circle of death that's out there everywhere. Regardless, pharma, the media, and the government, it all works the same. You guys familiar with Hims?
Mm-hmm.
So Hims makes a hair thing, right, to thicken your hair and stuff like that.
Make a boner pill too.
Hold on a second. So works really well. Number 1 side effect of Hims. What do you think it is?
Erectile dysfunction.
Fucking number 1.
And then you need
a fucking erectile dysfunction pill. Guess what? They sell one of those too. It's a fucking round the clock. So it's no different than the media, the government wants to get something passed. They need the fucking people's support. They need people to talk about it in order to get it in the news to get one side to look better than the other. So what do? They have the media fucking push it. So then the media pushes it. The media obviously has their side. It's very one-sided. Most of it is left-wing. Fox is right-wing sometimes not. Ultimately, they have their 50% viewers. The other channels split the other 50%. And their job is to get it to go around. And then meanwhile, while you're trying to figure out what team to be on, they make sure they pump you full of happy people taking all kinds of fucking pills and medicine. Right? So it's just this fucking, between media, the pharmaceutical industry, and the government, we just fucking just swallow it all whole. We would be much better off. They talk, it's funny because I made a post the other day on social media. I think that's what you actually commented on it, where I was like, all these threats of the government shutting down, maybe we ought to just fucking let them. How much better would our country be if we had 30 days of no fucking government? We just lived our own lives. Nobody fucking, we didn't pay any taxes for that month. Mm-hmm. No sales tax, none of that. Just let you know what, if my road goes to shit because my county can't afford to fix it, I'll just buy new tires.
You don't even fix it anyways.
What about if your house gets broken into, though?
What if my house gets broken into? Are you talking about the police?
Yeah.
So they're going to come after it was broken into, after my wife and I were threatened, after they shot my dogs, after all the bad shit happened, they're going to come and be like, fill out this piece of paper that tells me all this bad shit happened.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. I'll take this to the insurance company and then I'll get some money back, but it's not going to fix any of the fucking damage that occurred. So I understand the purpose of police. However, we might all get along a lot better if we didn't have government. Which means we wouldn't need as many police because maybe we'd all be a little bit happier.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see where that took. And that's also
jet ski. Example there where
But that's also, we're talking about the government shutdown isn't going to include local departments in most cases. That's federal aspect. So you're going to lose.
But it's federal. It's federal funding that funds. It's a trickle down.
But you've worked in a department before. Your fiscal year is budget's handled initially. It's not 4 months in, you're like, oh shit, we better call the feds and tell them we need more money this year. No, that shit's already handled. You already got your money.
Yeah.
Maybe there's I'm just saying, it wouldn't be a bad thing to let these fucking assholes up in Congress go a month without a paycheck.
Well, they don't go a month without a paycheck because their paycheck is
all the shit they got in the backdoor deals.
Yeah. I did a really interesting video on the wealth of Congress, and it's stunning. There are on paper maybe, so Congress is made up of the House and the Senate. There's literally somebody out there, you can please fact check and please comment on me with how incorrect you think I am, but there's somewhere around maybe 24 members of Congress that are not multimillionaires. All of the rest of them are worth 1.8 million or higher. And we're talking about that's Congress is a total of 500 and with both sides, it's over 600 people. So
It's like 596, isn't it? Something
I
like
think
that.
that's the total number. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Sounds
there's a
right.
very small number of them, and I want to say it's somewhere around 24 who are not multimillionaires. So they're indifferent. The government could shut down for 2 years and they wouldn't care because they've got alternative sources of revenue.
Of course.
There's some that are now rightly so. Like so, I'm from California, and one of the state representatives from California, Darrell Issa, is a good example. This guy's worth. You don't really hear much about him, but the guy's worth something. He's worth pretty close to $300 million. So, like, how much public service are you getting out of a congressman who's worth $300 million?
Right.
You guys know anything about that guy?
Nothing.
No, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, well, he is legit, and I'm not saying that just because he has an R next to his name, but he started a little company called Directed Electronics, and they invented the Viper car alarm. So he
Okay.
built wealth off of car electronics.
So he had his wealth before he came into
Yeah,
Congress.
he had all of his wealth.
So there's a
and-
difference between people,
Yeah.
like you said, people who come into Congress without wealth,
Correct.
and
And
then most of
Even
them
like
become
the Obamas, for
and then,
instance.
and then most of them become millionaires or billionaires.
Sure.
Yeah.
Versus someone who comes in with wealth and
Well, that's like, I mean, it's funny when you hear them talking about the financial advice that they can get from following the Nancy
Oh, the Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi and Dan Crenshaw.
Yeah, and that's not just them too. Let's be honest. That's what somebody chose to dig into. But I'm sure you can dig into every friggin' person in Congress and see them make trades 2-3 days before a bill hits the House, and that affects their bottom pockets. And that doesn't include all the money that they're getting from the people that are out there lobbying on the Hill and trying to get them to vote certain ways, and then defense contractors that are saying, hey, put my name out there for a deal.
Campaign contributions.
Well, of course, right? And which helps them stay in office a little bit longer, affect the next election, et cetera. So
Well, this comes back to the entire system, just in its corruption, and that, so if you're a pharma company, everybody has played roulette before, right? You spin the wheel, and so if you play the numbers on the inside, it's 36-1 odds, red or black, or you can play the greens, right? But if you place enough bets out there, so you can bet in 40 places. So if every time you spin the wheel, you can bet in, let's say, 37 places and just avoid the 3, you're gonna gradually win. Well, that's politics. Like,
Sure.
so the pharmas, they have the money to play everybody, and yeah, they're gonna lose. They lost billions of dollars because they bet on Harris for the last election and she didn't win. But think about how much they're gonna win with what they funneled through the current administration. Like, that's the system. Like, that's where we are.
well, and that goes into when we talk about why they turned the faucet back on for Ukraine. Well, because Trump's going to need that support in something else that he's going to do later down the road. So the defense contractors are probably like, hey, if we're not making bullets and making money, like, don't expect us to let these 8 Democrats that you need to vote for the supermajority for this to get passed. And all those backdoor, it'd be great if a president was like, we would need a TikTok president. Like, TikTok president, bro, he's just live 24/7 on TikTok. Every conversation, there's no top secret, dude. Everybody in the world knows what's going on every single day. And they hear like the guy come up and be like, hey, Mr. President, if you get this done for me, I'll go ahead and make this disappear. Yeah, like, that's the kind of shit that we need. So I want to get on a topic that we can actually talk about for a little bit, because we've been bouncing back and forth. I know everybody probably bought a couple, but
Can we take a deep?
you're welcome to take a peek.
Okay, I'm gonna take a deep break.
All right, peek break it is.
I meant to go before we got started, but Evan distracted me.
Oh, I'm sorry, I distracted you with my sexy photos.
It wasn't that.
We're an hour and 13 in, so I just remember that. Save myself some editing time. What do you guys think so far?
cool, good.
Cool. You guys got some specific stuff you want to talk about?
I think I wanted to bring up talking about something very impactful. I don't know if anyone heard the story, the Columbia student who they're trying to deport.
No.
They were so I forget when it came out this week or whatever, but
they revoked his. He has a green card. They revoked his green card, and they're.
Hold on, you can tell it all on the air. If you got something, that's what I want to know. I just want to know what it was, and then I'm gonna do because if we talk about it now, it'll suck the wind out of the room. What else you got, Anthony? What do you want to bring up? What's the?
I'm bouncing around everywhere. I'm actually starting to warm up now. So
all right,
I wanted to bring up with what you were saying about how you think Trump's compromised and how
for sure.
Mayor Adelson donated $100 or $200 million to the campaign.
APAC.
Yeah, APAC. So that's why
Israel, dude.
that is
Israel.
So
let's get into this Colombia thing for a minute. All right, and then I'm gonna bring it back to right now current scenario with Israel and
it ties right back into APAC.
Yeah, and then we can talk about what you guys just brought up.
What's crazy about Israel, though, I'm gonna say this real quick before we go back on here, is you can't. It's illegal to DNA test there because they're not all real Semites. The Palestinians are Semites.
I've heard that. I've heard about the Semite and the not Semite.
And it's crazy that.
Sorry,
I was watching TikTok.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. They'll find out they're almost a European.
Yeah, that's because most of them are Eastern European.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that used to be what
it's not real Semites. And they're like, and they always go back to the Bible. They know Israel's never a
All right,
state.
so we're gonna have a good conversation about this, but let's bring up your next thing. All right, you done with your pee break?
Sorry. Usually I'm good for the whole thing, but yeah, bourbon.
All right, bourbon.
We're drinking. So.
Little pee came out of you.
All right, we're back. All right, so while David was peeing, we decided we're gonna try to stay focused on a couple of topics. I got one I'm really passionate, excited about talking about. But Ryan, you mentioned one that you were was part of the news, and this is something I hadn't even heard. So I'm interested to hear the story. Tell me a little about it.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big. It revolves around free speech, obviously, and so the Trump administration is going after a Columbia student. I can't remember his name, but if you look it up, you can look up his name.
Yeah, I was actually just trying to do so.
He's a Columbia student. He's married to an American citizen. The guy has a green card. He's here legally. He's not here illegally by any means. His wife's.
Hold on, it's so hard to find his information because there's so much shit going on at Columbia in the last week or two.
Is it this U.S. arrest second student over Columbia University?
No, those are protesters. Which this just goes to show you, it's not gonna tell it. I can't even find the news about the Columbia student.
I can find.
Oh, here we go. Trump. So here, it's past all of this. So there's a bunch of stuff about a bunch of students regarding the protest. But here it is: Trump official target Columbia students over Palestinian student protester. Let's see.
He was a student protester, but they're specifically going after. They just chose to go after him and try to deport him, and it got held up. The court, because he wasn't even really charged with anything either, so the court prevented him from being deported until he faces a judge and can have his day in court for whatever they're.
So he self-deported himself. It looks like he left and went to Canada. Is that the same kid?
I don't know. I'll find his name.
That is an option now on the.
So he was So I did hear something about this actually, because I want to say that this is something that Dave, what's his name, brought up on his podcast. He was actively protesting, right? He was an active pro-Palestinian protest, causing trouble and without legit citizenship. So they revoked his green card because, if you're going to come to our, he was part of some pretty shitty protests from what I understand.
Cordia?
No. I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say
Mohammed Khalil?
Yeah, that's right, that's his name.
Yeah, it's Mohammed Khalil. Pro-Palestinian student charged with following last year's protests in New York City is self-deported to Canada. This is recent. Students' hurried departure comes after federal officials consider whether to bring terrorism charges against people who participated in last year's sit-ins and encampments that began at the Columbia University. It's a privilege to be granted a visa to live in the United States, to live and study in the United States. When you advocate for violence and terrorism, that privilege should be revoked and you should not be in this country. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem put in a social media post, I'm glad to see one of the Columbia University terrorist sympathizes uses the CPB home app to self-deport.
Yeah. Love that new feature, by the way.
ICE agents last weekend detained one of the student protester leaders in the operation and drew a request for real-time updates from the White House and arrested another protester Thursday. Officials have cut $400 million in research grants to Columbia and disbanded the university better protect Jews. Demanded the university better protect Jewish students. Identify as a... All right, so you're saying this was part of the Free Speech Act, right? Like, as a U.S. citizen, we should have the ability to have free speech.
Anyone, it doesn't matter if you're a citizen. If you're in the United States, you have the right of free speech. It doesn't matter who or what you are. That's what the idea of the First Amendment and all of our amendments are. Like, you don't have to be a citizen
Correct.
for that to apply.
Correct.
Like, the example that Glenn Greenwald used when he was talking about this was why. So Jordan Peterson he's a Canadian and he's always here, or whatever. And he, let's say, criticized the Biden government when Biden was president. So Biden could then deport him then. That's basically the basicness of the logic of what they're doing. And because he said there's nothing wrong. And the reason why they're targeting the students who are going after free speech on college campuses is because that's the place in America in particular where free speech is supposed to be supposed to flourish the most. Like, the most active group of people in our country are students, and then the student protesters. What's the thing that's what student protests is one of the things that helped bring down the apartheid regime in South Africa. So Israel is very concerned and has been since October 7th about the pro-Palestinian sentiment on college campuses, because that pulls attention from everyone who claims to be pro-Israel, or the just average sentiment on people being pro-Israel, and shifts it to make it being like, oh, there's something else going on here. Like, there was also something this week in that same regard that pro-Israel sentiment is the lowest it's ever been in the country, and it's a wonder why.
Because people are waking up to what Israel really is, and
Well, I think most regular people know what regular is, or know what Israel is, and for those who say, "Oh, it's just the Jewish community," it's not, right? Like,
it's between the Jews and a Jew. Okay, there's two different things between a Jew and a Jew.
Yeah.
Two different things. Okay.
Like, when you believe
one of it is you're trying to get a good price on a vehicle, and they call you an asshole. So you're trying to Jew them down.
Yeah, this is valid. I mean, it's the same thing. Like, if we travel to, Iraq right now, there's going to be some areas we go where they're not going to like us at all because of the color of our skin and what our government has done, right? So there's a difference between what the American government has done versus what Americans do, right? I think maybe, is that what you mean as far as Israel and Jews are concerned?
Yeah. Basically, the fake Jews and then the real Jews are just two different people. The fake Jews the state of Israel, like that's the
state of Israel. There's a difference between when we talk about the government, or like the government of the United States, the government of Israel, and then the people of the country, right? Or Jewish people aren't the Israeli government. They're not all Zionists.
Yeah,
There's a difference in that.
Well, and I think that, but what you see is the benefit of claiming to be a Jewish state.
Yeah.
Right? Because anything that you say against Israel.
Yeah, that's not the name.
Means that I'm anti-Semite.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, because Israel runs the USA. I mean, that's just
correct. Well, I mean, the U.S. Yeah, you're 100% right. Like, we've given more aid and more benefit to Israel than any other country, and all they're doing is fucking up peace in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Like, they're never going to allow peace in the Middle East to ever happen. Right, because they believe that they have, like, somehow they created this little spot where they believe they could start to spread out.
Yeah,
they want the white race gone. Is what it comes down to. That's why they flood it with immigration. And that's why they flood it with mixed relationships.
What's that with Israel?
Yes, they want the fake Jews want the white race gone. That's their end goal. They want the white race completely gone.
Well, I mean, at this rate, it's inevitable because, everybody's fucking everybody. So,
right.
Ultimately, there'll be no more whites. Everybody would just be mixed with everything.
Yep.
Well, at least I could save on my tanning bill.
Damn it, Grandpa.
No, but I'm glad we brought Israel into this, because we had a couple of comments last week where people were like, oh, dude, bring that same energy with Israel. Like, Israel and Ukraine are essentially the same fucking country right now. Like, we are giving Israel a ton of money, we give them a ton of leeway, and yet in fucking Yahoo fucking walks around like a fucking badass while he's surrounded by enemies. He's
And then Trump
creating
will
even
go,
more, and then we have to fucking pretend like we're our number one ally. And where does that come in?
Zelensky's a Jew.
Huh?
They're all Jews.
Well, but
They're all dual citizens Jews. Even the corporations that run the world are all dual citizens Jews. That's the way it works.
Gonna get us fucking banned. But it goes back to the why are we supporting them? I would gladly us take our fucking money and support away from Israel and like look,
Our own
dude,
country.
fucking settle your own fucking scores. I'm tired of fucking us getting in the middle of it. You know what I mean? And what they've done to the Palestinian people. Like, look, believe me, I'm in no way, shape or form a supporter of what they've done to those people, the Gaza Strip, and what that's is as far as an area, the poverty that those people live in. All that does is open up the opportunity for terrorism to come in, and like it's kind of like we just watched the movie the other day, Bonnie and Clyde, or like when you talk about Jesse James, like why were they such storied fucking bad people? Because they like helped out fucking like the fucking nobodies, the fucking poor communities and things like that. So as a terrorist organization, are you gonna run your terrorist organization out of maybe you would out of Beverly Hills, but but you're not gonna run it out of
Jews there.
You're not gonna run it out of a very well off, consistent, safe neighborhood. You're gonna run it in an area that's overrun by poverty, that already has crime, that's already overlooked, that's not felt important, because now you get to go in there and you get to create a following based off of the idea like, hey, look, we want to help you. What these people have been doing is wrong. We're going to get them back. We're just going to need a few of you guys to put on the vest, run over the border real quick, really fast, and what happens. And so they gain that support. I mean, that's how terrorism really starts, and that's why we say every bomb that goes into another country with the United States label on it creates another person that hates the United States, which then creates another terrorist group, or it reinforces another one, etc. So all the stuff that we're doing with Israel, I'm 100% against it. I would give them the same fucking treatment that we give Ukraine. And you could sit there and say, oh, they're our number one ally. Like, what did they do for us?
Yeah, people
Please share with me what was Israel, what Ukraine. Hey, England, you fucking too. You guys want to fucking put boots on ground in Ukraine, be my fucking guest, but what do any of them do for us as a country? Do any of them protect our border? If we got into a fucking war with Russia, would they rush over here to fucking join in that, or would they send us their fucking typical 4,000 or 5,000 troops that fucking want to talk about smoking cigarettes and chasing women the whole time they're overseas, rather than actually doing anything? So none of these countries, we don't need them. I mean, it sounds shitty to say that, but realistically, if the United States kept to ourselves, minding our own fucking business, had equal trade parts, regardless if it was China, Russia, Ukraine, fucking Germany, Greece, everybody in between, we wouldn't need any of these countries. We utilize them to make our private contractors rich, and to create diversion in all the stuff that our politics are doing in the background. So Israel, I would love to tell Israel to fuck off. I don't know about you guys, how you feel about that, but.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be left or even right to say, what Israel did was a good or bad thing. It was obviously a bad thing, genocide, period. But that's my opinion.
What's your voice, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, no, obviously, I've fallen into the camp of trying to not use the term genocide, even though that is what it is, and the ICC, the ICC is trying to prosecute Netanyahu and them for that and everything like that. Obviously, the world opinion is on the side of being against that, but the power that the Israel lobby and the government pulls with our country and using then our military to do their bidding essentially or whatever, it gives them carte blanche to do whatever they want.
Do you think Israel knew it was coming?
I think there's.
Wait, what part? The
attack.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if I think there's either cases or there was something going on where they were trying, I think, in Israel to investigate Netanyahu because there was now pre-knowledge that, I think Egypt warned them and some other things, but there was information that he did know and then neglected to act on it, and they were trying to prosecute him or investigate that.
Can I tag on that real quick? Because it's interesting you asked that, and then that's how you answered it. Because you guys, are you familiar with Ian Carroll? He was actually just on the Joe Rogan podcast today, and one of the things he talked about was the fact that, right before that happened, there was actually protests to get rid of it.
They were
like there was hundreds of thousands of Israelites
Yep.
that wanted him gone.
He's very corrupt. He's extremely corrupt.
So then,
I mean, they just elected him back in. So,
but that I understand that, but that's because they're in the middle of a fucking war.
Yeah,
and
it's a
they,
war.
It's also because of his relationship with American politics. Like you have to run the risk of electing somebody else different, starting those relationships over. Them coming over here with short man syndrome and saying something stupid like Zelensky, and then they're not getting anything.
right.
So I understand why they did, but before October 7th, and this goes back to, once again, did they know? Well, if you were a sitting president and they were doing all this and trying to get you out and they wanted you gone, letting something like October 7th happen so that you could sit there and tell them how strong you are is a great way to get reelected.
Yeah, it changes the narrative. It
Yeah.
shifted everything, like the public opinion, and obviously everything went from them protesting Netanyahu and his corruption to fully supporting him in protecting them from what happened or whatever.
Sure.
So, show of hands, been to Israel?
Ben to Israel or Ben Israel?
Ben, I'm not. No, was that a person? Ben, is that like a superhero?
You made it sound like you're like Ben Israel.
Ben.
Careful putting your right arm in the air.
Oh yeah. Okay. So remember what I was saying about China and like how difficult it is to move around there. Israel's even worse. So,
they have the most secure border in the world.
So
That's a fact.
I think they have a right to defend themselves per se, and it's really terrible what happened. But looking at all of the video and looking at where people were, and it's my first time meeting you guys. Obviously, I have a law enforcement background, but so as that entire thing unfolded, Israel's a police state. There's not. It's not like here where we've got like the town police and then we've got the city police and then you have the sheriff's office and the FBI or whatever. No, you have the fucking police, which is the military there, right? Mm-hmm. So it's police state, and they don't fuck around. They don't fuck around at all. So the thing that was really bizarre as I looked at that is. Even in the kibbutz, all of them, those are all the little impoverished I'd say impoverished, it's just not wealthy, but all those neighborhoods that are all along the border and everything, they're so well protected on any given day. You probably saw in the videos, like these gated communities, like these are fortified gated communities, like, and they have bomb shelters in every single home and all this stuff, because these people live in a different world than we live in. Like, they're constantly under attack, but nothing really flies there. Like anything happens and there's a response, but there were some areas where they didn't get to them for like 6 or 7 hours. So there's only one way that happened. It wasn't by accident. It was, we're doing training, we're doing all these other exercises. You're going to stand down or you're going to be on the other side of the country. It's not a big country. Like you can cross you can get to the kibbutz in, if you have lights and sirens and you've got armored vehicles, you can get there in 20 minutes from downtown. It doesn't take that long. So you got helicopters, you got fucking jets, you got a lot of shit.
Let's not forget too, like what's the one thing we all know about Israel, like when it comes to operations and information and all that stuff, like they're the best. When it comes to intelligence, they're better than us.
Mossad's supposed to be better than the CIA when it comes to access to information.
Correct. So when you talk about like they weren't able to know about it, like there's too much evidence that says otherwise. For once, like the border, the way that they have it secured and things like that, it failed that day. The fact that other countries were able to warn you about something that happens in your own country when you have a superior, like you mentioned Egypt, like Israel has a superior intelligence firm in comparison to Egypt, like. They're hearing things like on back chatter through like this person to that person to that person to that person. Like Israel probably heard that conversation happen real time,
right?
And had knowledge of that coming. So I don't believe there's a chance that they didn't know. I think that they allowed it to happen. I think that's given them the power to really destroy the Palestinian people as, like you said, you hate to use the word genocide. Just an overall execution of millions of fucking or hundreds of thousands of people at this point.
So we could say the same about Pearl Harbor, 9/11. Like we as the U.S. have had similarities where like how did we get all of these things so wrong? Now we're going down some some real conspiracy theories here.
Some dark
course.
September 11th.
So, I mean, so if you stop and think about it, I mean, there's, personally, I don't believe in that much coincidence. It's impossible. Like, so with the Israel thing. So what I believe is in terms of what happened, how it happened, and everything is highly questionable. But then, okay, so once you deal with that part of it, you still now have to deal with, okay, what actually happened. So let's come off Israel and let's go to 9/11 for a second. Let's say that the Israeli government and let's say that our government got together and said, oh, I got a plan. Let's do this. Let's murder 3,000 or so people, and that'll give us what we need to then really go fuck some shit up over in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Let's just assume for a moment that actually happened. And let's say that, like, on TV tomorrow they announce, oh, hey, by the way, this is exactly how that happened. It doesn't change the fact that all they really did is create the opportunity for murder. Somebody then went and executed the mission, and there still needs to be accountability for that. So I guess I would try and turn that back into a question in the Israel thing, in that, so regardless of what happened to create the opportunity, someone took the opportunity. People were murdered, people were kidnapped, people were unspeakable. So then what should the accountability have been? I guess I'd ask that to both of you guys. Like, what do you guys think the accountability should have been for, what actually occurred on 7th of October?
Like you said, I think that's part of the reason why they were investigating Netanyahu into, like, what was the intelligence failure. Like, that's the job of anybody, to investigate what was the failure. Like, even our government, it doesn't seem like really took responsibility for what happened with 9/11, for example. It's known fact that they had the FBI was informed of the people in Georgia. I think it was the camp where they went to the flight schools, learning how to fly the planes, and they were asking all these questions about how to take off the planes, but no one cared about landing them. And they informed the FBI multiple times with that, and nothing happened.
Yeah.
So that was a neglection of their job. So why do we need the FBI? Why do we need a bigger government? Why do we need all these things if they can't even take something that's obvious and act on it to protect
Yeah, I
us?
agree. I agree with that. I guess, here's another analogy, a little more localized. Like, if I leave my house completely unlocked and I leave the front door open and I leave a sign out that says, I have expensive shit, feel free to steal it. And then I leave, and then, to no surprise, somebody comes and steals all my shit. So what should happen to those people? I mean, they still broke in my house and stole my shit. Like, so repeating the question, like, so with Israel in particular, so the opportunity was created for somebody to come in and do what they did. So they took the opportunity, they did it. So what should happen to them?
You're talking about the Palestinians or Hamas, in a sense.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Hamas gets a free pass. Like, don't get it twisted. But I mean, at the same point in time, like, you're attacking a terrorist organization where you don't know who's who. Okay, it'd be like, let's say we're all sitting here in this room, and one of my cameras disappears while I'm taking a leak. So do I fucking get the right to then say, oh, well, somebody at this table took it, so I'm just gonna shoot all you guys in the fucking head?
Yeah, it's about the proportionality of the.
You know what I mean?
But also, it all depends on how much money and people you're going to throw at the situation.
But if I come back though and I'm like, all right, you guys all have one chance to fucking tell me who the fuck took the fucking camera, and you guys all point to fucking him, and I put a bullet in his head, fucking problem solved, right? Like, they didn't use this as an opportunity to flush out the bad. It's not like they went into Palestine with this idea that says, hey, look, there's so many bad people amongst you that it's prevented us from helping you as a country.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And as Israel, as this super powerful country, as the fact that we have the backing of the United States, we believe that the people of Palestine deserve a better place to live. You should have homes. You should have places to work. You should have safety for your family, food for your kids. So help us get rid of the people that are causing this pain and causing this friction between us, and we will help you guys be a better country. No, we just said we're gonna fucking bomb everybody anytime we want. We don't give a fuck about that it's hospitals filled with old people or kids are dying or people are losing their limbs. Like, they could care less. They were looking at this as a way to allow it to increase, say, hey, let's just nuke the entire country, essentially, is what they're doing. They're destroying every life that's over there. They don't care about civilians. Not one. you see all the different things that are happening. You don't destroy a hospital because there's a fucking Hamas terrorist group underneath it, and then that justifies the fact that you killed 500 innocent people. Like, that's not the case. So the fact that they're getting away with it, and then the fact that we're standing there backing it is even more disgusting.
Yeah, we're funding
We're backing it. It's not like we're not condoning. It's not like we're not saying that's enough. Like, no, Netanyahu, take your little fucking midget ass, get on your plane, get out of here. You're not getting another dollar from us. By the way, that Iron Dome, we're gonna go fucking collect all that shit and put it over Hawaii, because fuck you guys. You got your own problems. No, we don't do that, because that would create peace is bad. That would create a desire to get peace, and that's bad for the money makers in Washington, D.C. and all the private contractors.
I just want to correct you. Netanyahu is 6 feet tall.
Wow.
He's taller than you.
Taller than me.
Yeah.
Fuck that guy.
Still short man syndrome.
But still has short man syndrome. Absolutely. But so when you say like what price should they pay? Well, hopefully you find a way. Why do these terrorist groups start? It's because of stuff like this.
I think
Like, you think Hamas is going to go away because we just killed all those people? No. If I'm a Palestinian and my wife and daughter just died, I'm joining Hamas.
Well, that's like the terrorist math that they coined. I forget who the general was or whoever.
I know
in
you're talking
Iraq,
about.
where you kill one, you create 2 more, and then it's just it's a feedback loop.
I think it's create 20 more. Actually.
Yeah,
is the saying.
it's-
Yeah, I
I
know what
actually
you're
think
talking about.
I actually think that Israel creates the Hamas. And
Well, they did.
create the figures of the Osama bin Laden, so they can get these terrorist groups to go do the proxy wars and have excuses to go invade, etc.
Well, that's
Israel funded Hamas like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And that who funded Hamas, like that's an actual fact. Like,
right.
The whole I can't remember the name of it, but Netanyahu famously saying, "We control the height of the flame."
Yeah, Israel is
We-
Hamas, honestly. So that's why
It's
I
just
just saw something the other day. It was the United States. Oh, the United States gives fucking the Taliban $40 million a month.
yeah, we were protecting. There was a clip I just saw it not long ago from the news from when we were in Iraq and when we were protecting the poppy fields.
Yeah.
And they were saying the news guy was like talking like how this was like some great thing that we're protecting the poppy fields for these farmers because they have to grow this. What else could they grow? Like this is their living. You can't just.
Right.
It's just like what? We're funding that. We're like acting like it's some great thing. No, that's a horrible thing.
No, and you know what? All this money that we're giving to the Taliban now, like for all those people that are worried about rights in our own country, for transgender rights and for everything else, like, oh, why don't you guys complain about the fucking millions of dollars we're giving to the Taliban? And that's why I really, if anybody's listening, you live near Medina, Ohio, you want to come on the podcast and you have a different opinion than us and all of this or some of it, or we would love to have you on, not to berate you and bash you, but I'd just like to hear somebody sit here across from me and say that it's okay to back Israel, it's not okay to leave Ukraine, and that it's okay that we give Taliban $40 million, but I also back transgender rights and transgender surgeries and stuff in kids. Like, I just don't understand, like, every one of these arguments contradicts each other, and that's the hardest part I have with it. But I can see why, because then, like we say, we're sitting here, we all agree on the aspect that Ukraine, that should be over. Like, Israel, they should stop being funded. But then it's like all of a sudden something came out and now we don't get to hear about Epstein, we don't get to hear about the JFK files. And it's like, I wonder how much of that intertwines with Israel. Like, we already know that Epstein obviously has his own ties with Israel, that a lot of his honeypots and things like that are similar to the way that they did negotiation tactics and collected intelligence. And it has you wonder then, okay, like, well, how much did Israel have to do with JFK? Like, a president of peace is a president that's not good for war.
Yeah. JFK never wanted Israel to have nuclear weapons. He wanted to register them under FARA, the foreign, whatever the act is where the foreign governments have to register if they're giving money to political causes. Like, there's a whole bunch of things, that's known that he was against.
Yeah, he should say bend over for Israel.
And was getting into, so then it was possibly a problem and maybe there was some ties there and that happened.
Well, and then if you're Trump and you want to release the JFK files and you find out that Israel's involved, that kind of undermines everything that you're doing as far as your support for Israel.
Yeah, it's like the quiet part out loud. Like, you're saying that, I have all these documents, but I have to redact the name Israel every page, so I can't really redact the whole document.
Right.
Because supposedly everyone who was involved in JFK is dead.
Right.
What one thing is not dead?
Israel.
Yeah,
that relationship. Yeah, that's just it's just crazy because then you sit out here and like we're just regular fucking guys. We're not political pundits. We're not fucking running for houses seats or Senate seats or anything like that. But as a regular person, a regular Joe, you're sitting here having a conversation. You're like, dude, the shit just doesn't add up. Like none of it adds up. Why in a country when we want to make America great again, why are we still talking about funding all these other fucking countries' side wars? You know,
Jet ski.
yeah. Well, and let's go into this last aspect of last night where they bombed the Houthis, and then you're going to sit there and send a warning to Iran to stop funding them. Okay, well, what are you going to do if they don't?
Yeah.
Like when you make, and this is another thing about Trump, when you make a threat, you have to stand by it. When you make a threat regarding our military, you have to stand by it, which means you're going to put our men and women in the harm of bullets. Like you're going to put them in the direction of bullets and bombs and everything else. So are you doing it with a true end goal? Like for instance, are you saying, Iran, if you back them at all, and we find out, we're going to either fucking go to war, which would be a terrible idea, or you're going to receive zero funding, $0, zero assistance, zero anything. Or we're going to, you know, what are we going to do in order to back that up? Because they're not going to stop what they're doing.
No.
You know, these countries, like...
Those countries in the Middle East, for example, that do these things, they believe, and rightfully so, that they're standing up for the Palestinians and their right to exist. Like, they believe in their cause, and they have a cause. Whether or not you believe that it's just or justified, it doesn't really matter because they believe that it is, and they're just reacting to something that's already happening. Well, you know, it wasn't like they did it out of whatever. Them doing the attacks is a direct retaliation to what happened after October 7th and the massacring and genocide of the Palestinian people. That's what happened. It's cause and effect.
Well, then now here in our country, we have college campuses that are fighting over Israel and Palestine. Like, this is America. This should be the last thing on your mind. Unless you're from there, you should really not care about what's going on over there. You should be worried about yourself, your education, your next steps in life, whatever the case might be. So because our government picked a side, now the media makes sure that, well, I'm negative Trump, I'm against Trump, so then everybody that's not pro-Trump, you have to pick this side. Everybody else has to pick this side. And really in between, everyone's like, why do we even fucking care?
Well, there's opportunists there for the activism. That's,
Of course.
I think, you know, there's opportunity in that, I guess, in answering what I think your question is there is that, yeah, why would people care about this? Or we've kind of said it jokingly about, you know, why people even on like their Tinder profiles are putting, you know, I stand with whomever, you know, to which I say, yeah, if you want to stand with them, go pick up a rifle and go fucking stand with them.
You can join the Ukrainian Foreign Legion.
We literally were
Exactly,
talking about that during our...
They're happy to send you to the front line to die.
Yeah.
They are.
Absolutely.
I was actually watching a really interesting video from a guy who was in Ukraine 3 weeks ago, and he was making it a point how he was stopped. They made him delete his footage. He's a vlogger. The military stopped him 20 times during his trip to identify himself. Like, they pull up in vans, and that's their recruiting. They were just constricting people right off of the streets because of all the deserters. And he tried to film. Each time he tried to film it, they made him delete it. Like, he got some of the footage out, but like, you know, he had to prove his citizenship. Otherwise, they'd just take him like, all right, you come to the front lines with us. Like, so. Anyway,
I watched that the other day, the white van picking people up walking their dog and shit like that.
I saw that.
There's been clips of that for years ago. For years now, going around of how they pick people up in the vans and send them to the front lines, basically to die like that. Like that's conscription, forced slavery. That's that's what it is. So.
And nothing you can do about that, though. It's not our country, not our business.
Yeah. So, but back to your question of why college students are a little interesting, and we were all at that age at one point where
years ago.
You start thinking about what's really important or how you're going to change the world and everything, and the certain amount of people they're impressionable at that age, and they're also recruitable to causes. I shared with you guys when I was out in LA and I was at the ICE protests, and I was just out there just kind of capturing it, and I encountered professional agitators out there that were white men. They were very spooky, very military-esque. They were dressed the part, they moved, they acted the part, and it's kind of like I should have just stopped and interviewed them, but I was literally a little fearful of the safety of my friend that was with me, because there were a couple thousand people out there, and the very day before that, this same group got a whole crowd going, and one kid got stabbed and all this stuff. But you just look at what their benefit is. They're looking for a media angle there, like here's this protest, and then all of a sudden it goes and gets violent, and then all of a sudden that's at the top of the news cycle for the day. Like that's their motivation. And then my brother actually managed to research the group and find the group. He's got some resources. He's got some interesting resources, but we actually know all of those guys' home addresses and everything, and who they are and where they're from and everything. So just in the event that they ever surface again, but it's interesting because that's just one little cause, but that's these people have turned that into almost like a business. Like that's what they do. Like,
Yeah.
Whether that week it was ICE, next week it's going to be, pro-Palestinian. And then the week after that, it's going to be, fuck Israel or whatever it's going to be.
I think there's a little bit of a difference there between like that, for example, and what happens on college campuses. Because again, the vast majority of people that protest on the college campuses are students at the university, and when it comes specifically like to the pro-Palestinian protests, we just call them that or whatever, they're protesting our government's funding of the genocide of what's happening. Without us, Israel couldn't do that. We're the reason why that's happening. So
which are you talking about? So you believe that Israel is conducting genocide?
Well, with what they did to the Palestinians in Gaza?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's genocide? How many people have they killed there?
At least over 100,000.
Well, hold on a second. If I killed everybody at this table, that would be genocide because I killed everybody. So it doesn't matter like the count, in my opinion.
Mostly women and children too.
Genocide is considered like a wiping out of a race, a wiping out of a.
They are ethnically cleansing the Gaza Strip.
100%.
That's what it is. That's what happens when you destroy all the buildings, cut off means to live, push them out, and then say they can't come back. That is what it is. It's terrible to to say it, but that's what they're doing.
I mean, the word is, it has gene right in the word, and so like Will said, that's the definition is the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. So Gaza, there are no Gazanians.
They're Palestinians.
They're Palestinians.
Yeah.
So they were not trying to. So you feel that the goal is to just eliminate all Palestinians, not necessarily eliminate those that are in the Gaza Strip.
Well, they want, Israel wants the land. It's all part of the Greater Israel Project. That's what it's all about. So they just want the land, and they have to get rid of the Palestinians. So whether they, the objective obviously is if you kill enough of them, then they'll just hopefully eventually leave. Or if we destroy it and they can't come back, well then they can't come back and we get the land anyway. Right. It's the same thing that they're doing in the West Bank right now. They started doing that right after the ceasefire deal in Gaza with all the attacks into the West Bank and stuff like that. So they want to annex that.
Yeah,
Same thing with what they're doing in Syria.
I'm just being a little critical of the use of genocide because what you're describing is more of a real estate play more than a let's kill it. Because it's impossible. There's Palestinians all over the planet.
You'd have to look up
there's Jews all over the planet. We call it genocide with what Hitler did.
He was literally trying to exterminate that.
Right, but they were all over the world. Right, we had Jews in America at that point in time, so you can't say that. So you're like, oh, we're gonna just fucking come over to America and kill all our Jews and black people and the gays and all that stuff too. Like, that was never gonna be a case, but it was still his attempt on a genocide. If you're wiping out, you say it's a real estate play, but like if I say I'm gonna wipe out Medina because I want to buy all the property for myself, that's a fucking genocide, regardless if they're Medinians or they're white or they're black or they're Palestinian or Afghanistani.
It's not a genocide.
It is. I'm wiping out a race of people. I'm wiping out the whole area of the people that live in that vicinity.
Medinians are a race.
They can't be. What's the claim? What's the Palestinian versus Hamas versus an Israelite? They're all people.
Yeah.
Right, but if they have different beliefs and they're in an area and I wipe them out, they're residents of that area. I wiped out
it's not a genocide.
You have to look up the ICC court filings. That's the reason why a lot of people feel comfortable using the term genocide because they specifically use
From genocide in the court filing.
ICC.
Yeah, just the ICC. Just type in ICC genocide
So
case.
has the United States of America ever practiced genocide?
Yeah, we did it to Native Americans.
Yeah, 100%.
We
We weren't the United States at that point.
No, but it was the same idea. As
Well, we
genocide.
well, when we went west, even after the colonies or whatever, like we wiped out all the Native Americans.
Oh, we didn't wipe them out. We fought them, took their land, and then gave them
Put them in,
back.
concentration camps.
Yeah. So So
I mean, like, I would consider that a genocide as an American. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not
not
good what happened, but it happened, and we have to just acknowledge that it, it happened.
How about Hiroshima? Was that a genocide? There was a lot more people killed during that.
I mean, I don't think the ultimate goal was to destroy a race, but it could. I mean, but there's a lot of people. So that goes back to the argument: is it a lot of people, or is it trying to destroy a race? If they trying to destroy the entire race, they would have followed that up with additional, or they would have fucking taken over different aspects of the country to eliminate people. Then yes, I would consider that a genocide. But if you're just dropping a bomb and killing a lot of people, that's not necessarily the same scenario.
So then I would use that argument back all the way to the front part of the question there, and it ties in with your original answer, is that, so in the case of Netanyahu, you should have been hunting with a rifle, not with a shotgun and dynamite then in that case.
Well, there's a whole...
Netanyahu never came to the table and wanted to make that area great for anybody else. He wants the land. He wants the reason to wipe out everybody that lives there so that he can take the land without force.
Right, but that's my point, and you alluded to it earlier when you said that, so you're going to blow up a hospital because there's, a base underneath it. He would have been better sending in troops and destroying the base and not destroying the hospital. So
he would have been better offering the people that actually live there an opportunity to sit and to negotiate at the table and say what can we do to resolve this?
Actually giving the Palestinians their own state, their own
what
rights.
if we just what if we just stop fighting? What if we just do that? What does it take to stop fighting? How do we solve this solution? Is it that you want this to be called Palestine? Is that all we got to do? Can we be equal trade partners? Can we,
yeah,
that's what you can do.
Well, so I'll side with Palestinians for a second here, because post World War II, they just showed up down there and they took the land with our help. Mm-hmm. So there's that. So I get it from their perspective, but it would be the same argument backwards. So then what? We should just give the Indians back all of their land we took here.
No, well, you can't. I mean, you can't give it back or whatever. But for example, there's plenty of examples in world history where you have people who had these kind of conflicts, like in the United Kingdom with Ireland. They were at war for how long, and now they live peacefully. Right. Think of the countries. Well, they recognize their borders and the rights of the different citizens.
Yeah.
And then countries in Europe where they were fighting or whatever, and then they established their borders. They gave the people in the different countries their rights, and they respected them. So there's a history and a precedent of that being able to happen, but Netanyahu and Israel as a state, their objective is not for that. They don't want a two-state solution. They've had the opportunity to do that, and Israel's always neglected and pulled back on it for whatever reason they come up with.
Well, it's interesting because it's funny. And I don't know. I've never been to Israel. I wanted to go to Egypt, but you look at Gaza Strip, and it's such a small strip. It's a small piece of land between two really large countries. Well, not the largest, but Israel and Egypt. And then it's the water. Mm-hmm. The only purpose for wanting that land really would be if you wanted to create property values, tourist additions, etc.
Oh, there's
when Trump started. But if you look at it as the Gaza Strip is just the ghetto. You're just trying to cleanse the ghetto. It's poverty is at a war. That's all there is to it. And it's really surprising that hasn't already happened already. Frankly, I'm surprised that it hasn't already. When you look at it and put it to the size, you're how is that possible? But a lot of that comes back to the West Bank too.
Yeah. Before they, this all happened, whatever, Gaza had a lot of some of the greatest universities in the world with high education levels. There wasn't a necessarily completely poverty-stricken nation or whatever. They had, because Israel was imposing a blockade upon them. They didn't have access to everything that they could have access to. But again, if you go back to what you said about how Israel took their land from the Palestinians, those people have instilled in their culture that belief that they're not going anywhere. This is their land. Their families have been here for generations. Like, you can't just kick us out. And just as a people, they're so determined to stay there and to just whatever it takes to rebuild, to whatever. It's something that unites them. And you can't, it's like a spirit thing maybe, I don't know. You can't just like kill it off or not allow it to.
Again, we come back to a real estate play, right? Because Jerusalem plays a role in this. I guess I would simplify it in this term. I don't think it's genocide. I think what it is you had a very big bad bully come in and take the land, and they did it. That's us. We helped them do that.
Which is illegal.
We took it and we gave it to them, and they're there and they're not happy. And during this process, the Gaza Strip was created, the West Bank was created, and you had people that were stuck on either side and all of that. I mean, Israel has controlled the entire economy of the Gaza Strip by way of resources, energy, water, all of it, right? Because that's salt water. It's not drinkable water out there. Like, so they've had control of all of it. And they're fucking pissed about it. And they decided, well, let's go today's the day. We're going to now go make a move and see if we can change this. And it didn't go favorably for them. They went and picked the fight with the bully, and they fucking lost. And they lost bad. I think that I agree with what Will said earlier is that, yeah, you should have gone into the ground. You shouldn't have, done airstrikes on hospitals and everything and just chalked up the loss of the innocent people in the hospital along with the troops, because if you're militant, you already know you're going to put all of your military resources next to people and use them as human shields. Like, it's the same reason why there's a massive military base in San Diego. Like, you have that same thing, because if it's ever hit, you can tell that story. Like, oh, their missiles missed the base and hit Escondido. There's not even there's nothing in Escondido. It's like the same story. So, but then I say now, okay, so then now what? So let's say that you were the decision maker on what happens next over there. Now what do we do over there then?
I mean, the only solution for peace with that is a two-state solution, and Israel's not going to allow that to happen in its current form or structure with Netanyahu in power, and that it's just not in the cards, unfortunately. Like, they just won't let it happen. They'll create whatever situation or push us in whatever direction they need to for that not to happen.
Well, and that's the next step, right? It's like, yeah, because two-state solution would be the ultimate goal.
Yep.
Even if it required realigning the territories of the Gaza Strip along with the West Bank.
Yeah, they want pre-67 borders is what they've always talked about.
Right. Like, there's a way that you could develop that to where it'd be like, hey, look, and then you could create a partnership with that country. Like, it doesn't have to be your enemy.
No, it doesn't.
You could create that solution that says, like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to expand this area. We're going to take away from this area. This will give us the opportunity to do this. We're going to open up trade. We're going to, we can help you establish a government. We can work together. We can fund you. We can make sure that your people eat. We can there's a lot of things that you could do in order to create that partnership that lasts decades and decades, right? You can offer them a path to citizenship.
Yeah, well, if Israel, because Israel will say, well, we have people in our country who are Muslims or Palestinians already, and they live peacefully or happily or whatever. That's true, but they don't have equal rights to the Jewish Israeli citizens. And there's no way, again, currently in Israel's form, that they would give all Palestinians equal rights to them. They want them suppressed as a minority.
Correct.
Like, that's all part of, what's going on. So it's just what's in the cards and what's not. Like, yes, they could do it.
You mean, wait, that sounds like somebody else I know. Who else wanted a superior race, eliminate all the other ones?
Well, if you just want to be honest about it, yeah, basically what Netanyahu is doing is what Hitler did in Europe to the Jews. They're basically doing the exact same thing that happened to them and saying that they're righteous in their cause.
Imagine that. I'll be damned. Yeah, people have no problem. But that's funny though, because then we go back to how the Democratic is calling all the Republicans Nazis, right?
As they were the ones.
But they were supporting Israel for the last 3 years and had no problem doing it, and that's goes back into they're all friends.
Yeah,
they all hook up. Yeah. They all drink whiskey at the same bourbon bar on a Friday night, and they all laugh at all the American people that are
stupid.
Yeah, just like to that point, exactly how all of them calling us Nazis or whatever, they're the ones funding actual Nazis in Ukraine.
Correct.
And being okay with that. So
So what do you think is going to happen with, the Houthi bombing? Like, where do you think we go with that? I mean, this hit the news yesterday, and this is going to be like the top of the newsreels this entire week that we're going into.
4 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what the response is from the Houthis and Iran. Like, I understand that Iran already kicked back communication attempts from Trump. So obviously they're not going to play well with it. They're either going to enforce it and make it worse. And here's the other issue. Hate to bring us back to the border. Circle of life. All those illegal immigrants we allowed to come inside our borders over the last years. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that we don't know about. Millions. Yeah. Hundreds of thousands in months, over months. But yeah, millions overall that we allowed to come to this border that we know nothing about, where they're from, their background, their history. It's not like we arrested anybody that did have a background or a history. We didn't, So now when you try to make power plays, you have to worry about who's inside your own
if there is
borders
actually
now, right? So if you have a anti-American Iranian gang that's already started to kind of get together, like it's not difficult for them to make things difficult on us at any point in time. Because as much as we want to feel safe, there's a lot of things that freedom gives you the ability to do that other countries don't, and it's just as dangerous as not. Yeah. For instance, weapons, the ability to buy certain, things that you want to buy at the grocery store that can create certain aspects of a bomb and things like that. Like, there's just a lot that we have the freedom to do that wouldn't require a lot to cause injury. Like, we live here in Medina, a tiny little square. Like, what's to stop us from creating a dirty bomb, walking there during, the ice festival and, harming a bunch of lives? Nothing. And I don't mean to say that as a threat, so if you two don't.
Except digital IDs and mass surveillance. It always circles back to that too.
But the idea, though, is that like we have all these people inside this country that we know nothing about. Why is it fearful? Well, because there's a lot of things that are easy to do in America because of the freedoms that we have.
Yeah. But what would create an environment where something like that would happen? You know what I mean? Like 9/11 didn't happen in a vacuum, right? What did Osama bin Laden say was his reason for doing it? Well, because we've been bombing and starving Iraqi civilians for a decade, you know what I mean? So by us escalating on a ladder with Iran, for example, right, you create the opportunity for someone who is Iranian or whoever to be like, well, you're killing my people over there, so what's going to help me here? This one guy always gives an example of the Pulse nightclub shooting in Florida. I forget what year that happened in. But when the guy, if you read the transcript from the 911 call, he was from Syria, and it was a protest to us bombing in Syria. And on the phone call, he kept saying, "You're bombing all of my people on the in Syria, and I'm here in America. What am I going to do? You're killing my people. You're killing these people. Like, what can I do? What am I to do?" Kind of thing. Like, specifically saying that he's doing this because of our government is doing over there.
Right.
That's what caused him to go in there and shoot all these people. Not because he hates America, not because he hates our freedom, but because we're destroying his country and killing his people.
Right. So what's he gonna do? Right. Like, how can he play a part in that?
Trump basically already told us what's going to happen.
What do you mean?
Do you guys remember when he said that Iran may unalive him?
Oh yeah, they're trying to push that whole.
Trump getting assassinated
that's
by Iran.
So fake and. That's unbelievable.
But I think it's. But
he might believe it too, which is not.
What's
good.
that? Wait, what part?
That Iran's trying to assassinate him.
But that may happen, not really happen. But what I'm going to go back to is like the world's scripted. It's a stage. That's what I believe.
Yeah, like
I believe it's all planned out. And he's kind of like telling you in a sense what may happen.
Well, there's one country left for us to destroy the Middle East, and it's Iran. I don't know if you ever heard General Wesley Clark's 7 countries in 7 years speech.
I just saw
Democracy Now. He was on Democracy Now. It's a great thing. And he knew in early 1990s all the countries that we were going to go over there and do that too. It was a paper. It was a policy paper thing. You can look it up. General Wesley Clark, 7 countries.
World War III will probably be Russia, China, and Iran versus the USA.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, Albert Pike was a Freemason. That's basically what he said was going to happen.
Oh, I don't think Russia wants any type of war with us in any capacity. If you study the history of like the fall of the Soviet Union and everything, they've wanted nothing more than to integrate with the West and Europe and everything. Yeah. And we've done everything in our power to not do that. There's documents.
I missed that last part. I was looking up his.
He was saying that he believes Russia actually does not want a war with us or anyone, and I do agree with that. They don't have the resources. I know that they're kind of like our favorite nemesis out there, but like in terms of just money, because it does take money. And yeah, of course you can throw the first sucker punch, but I find it hard to believe. That they would have weapons superior than the other 8 or 9 countries ahead of them in terms of GDP, because Russia's not even in the top 10 anymore. I don't know if you guys are aware of that.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Russia and China in particular, like a war with them is nuclear war where everyone dies anyway. Like there's no conventional war. It's nuclear war, end of the world. Like that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, they definitely have the nukes, but I just don't. I believe that we as a population we need to believe that they could push a button and they could start that. They could, but I don't think that their missiles would go much further beyond Ukraine or into Europe.
Oh, their conventional forces. Yeah, no, without a doubt. No, without a doubt.
They're getting there. Otherwise, just look at this. They've been fucking around with Ukraine, which really has no resources. They have our resources. They've been fucking around with them for 2 years and can't take cities over there. And we're supposed to be fearful of that.
Well, they've got 4 territories, but then at that point you spread out. But that's where it goes back to the same thing. Now there's a little difference between China and Russia, mostly people.
And then also resources, because China's number 2 in terms of money. But the Iran thing is really interesting, because this might be like the life imitating art or art imitating life thing. But then you go back and you look at the Obamas put out that Until the End of the World movie. Did you guys watch that?
Yeah,
that was such a bizarre movie, that just kind of snuck up onto the scene, and then all of a sudden social media, right? It's like, and that's how all those weird movies, and then shit happens, and then after it happens, then you point back at that and say, well, wait a minute, they made a movie yet.
Yeah, predictive programming is what they
predictive programming. Exactly. Yeah, that which that movie.
Which probably will happen. Honestly.
And so if you go now and rewatch that movie and how it started, like that was kind of the undertoned punchline was that I think it was Kevin Bacon's character is like, oh no, this is the Iranians. They use these microwave weapons like that we're living through right here. Like he was the adult in the room. The whole movie is explaining what the fuck was actually going on. So I think that's I could see that. I think that we lose by way of our hubris. There's going to be something along those lines where they hack all the Teslas, and the Teslas are killing people. Sorry, Elon.
What do you guys think of Elon, honestly?
I think he should give us Teslas.
Yes, I definitely think Elon should give us Teslas as well.
I don't know.
What do I think of Elon? I think Elon is a genius. I think he's probably one of the greatest minds of our generation that we'll probably experience. And I'm not just fucking clouding him up, but like I think that as many things as he has his hands on, it's amazing how well they operate. As far as Tesla, look at what he did for X. Our world would be a different place right now if Elon didn't acquire X or Twitter and turn it into X. Like whether you like to admit it or not, like we were about to be social media genocided as a Republican Party. But they were essentially destroying all capabilities for people to crosstalk and communicate online if it didn't agree with a specific narrative. So without Elon putting a stop to that, I do think that's what helped with the election, because it allowed a lot of articles and things to come out from other points of perspective that changed people's thoughts and opinions and the way that they looked at stuff. It's become a source for information, for news. Does that mean I believe it like the Bible? No, I still cross-check things 4, 5, 6 times before I actually come up with my own opinion, but it's another place to go. As far as him as a person, I think that I mean, I think it's really cool that he came up with this way to kind of just go over to the U.S. government and tell us all the shit that we're overspending on. The problem is now that I'm not happy with Trump, I'm not necessarily sure that he's telling me everything either, as far as Elon goes.
Well,
And the other cuts and costs that he's coming up with. You know, we talked about the spending bill that's trying to get passed to the House right now. And it's like, what's in this fucking spending bill? Like, yes, we freed up this money. I believe, from what I can gather, is that the real purpose of the spending bill is to allow us to take that money and then spend it on other aspects that we deem important. That Trump's party deems important, but I don't think it's additional money against us. But I don't know, because I don't get to see the full bill. It's not like I can print it up, and if I did, I sure as fuck wouldn't read 500 pages. And we're never going to come up with a summary page for a bill that goes through Senate, because that would just be smart. You know. It's like if every time that you wanted to see how much money in your bank account, you had to go through, like, remember you had check ledgers back in the day?
Yeah.
You might not remember that, you're a little young. But like you had check ledgers, right? You carried your balance forward. Like it'd be like every time now we have this great technology called online banking and an app. But in order to find out how much money you had to go in there, you had to pull up your statement and calculate all the money you spent over the last 45 days. And then you're like, oh, I have this much money in my bank account. Like that's essentially what the same thing, you know?
What's your feelings about Elon?
I like what I said at the beginning of the podcast was I believe the corruption that he's exposing is really, I wouldn't say false, but it's definitely out there. Like I said, I think that the point is to make everybody on board with digital currency, shrinking of the government, because Elon Musk is a participant in the World Economic Forum. He does want to chip you. He's a big thing on social credit score.
He doesn't want to chip you.
He wants to chip you.
He wants to chip
What's
you.
his chip called?
The Neuralink?
Yeah, Neuralink. That's what that is.
That's completely
That's exactly
different,
what that
though.
is. No, it's
Hold on,
all the
I
Have
same.
you guys seen the movie Terminator? You guys have seen the movie Terminator.
Okay, first of all, let me tell you something. If I lost
Skynet.
if I lost my arm in Neuralink,
That's how he sells it.
Oh, that's how he sells
That's
it.
how he sells it. Think about it.
So you think he just wants to turn us all into robots?
Starlink and Skynet are the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. You guys seen the movie Terminator? Skynet and Starlink is the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
You think he wants to chip everybody too?
Well, yeah, it's all. I mean, I don't know if that's his
Well,
end goal, but
I do. I have heard about communicating through fucking what is it?
They want to update your. They want to put you in the cloud.
He
That's what
wants-
they want to do.
he wants to turn like X.
Wasn't that Johnny Depp, that movie where you die and they put you in the cloud?
We're living in the world of between the Matrix and the Terminator. 100%. I believe they want to upload us to the cloud between the chips and everything.
He wants to turn like Twitter into like the WhatsApp, like China's WhatsApp, where
Everything's on one.
everything's on
He's
one
in control
app,
of everything.
like your banking, everything you do,
Yeah,
everything's
your
on the
social
one
credit
app.
score.
So like, there are parts of that, but at the same time, for example, Elon will like, when it comes to like the Doge thing, or whatever, he'll go on like Joe Rogan, or he'll tweet things out from like Milton Friedman, like actually seriously addressing the issues with the debt and deficit, because all that's like an actual problem, and that it makes me at least feel that he's aware of the impending crisis, and that that's our actual number one issue that we need to address.
Wait, you just fucking
No.
I was like,
Well, he's talking about chips. There's actually some countries that are already chipping people.
Oh, yeah,
Sweden actually does most of their currency in Sweden. If you look up online,
That's coming here.
in their chips in their hand by paying for everything.
Yeah, but we already have that. It's our smartphone.
right
It's a smartphone, but
it's not,
just
though.
not in your body.
It's
not
in your body, but they're also
What else is in
talking.
your body?
See, with my phone, I
Yeah.
can throw it. I can throw my phone in the lake and be fine. But something on my skin, they'll track you everywhere you go.
Yeah, but why would
You speak out against the Jews, guess what? Now you're locked out of your bank account. Like, I feel like that's what's really coming. I believe that Trump and Elon are the fake heroes to pacify the patriots so we don't uprise and start a revolution. Yeah, think about when he said our country got stolen. What did we do? Honestly, what would our forefathers would have done? We would have ejected all those people out of there instantly. But we all sat on the couch.
yeah.
Think about it.
I do agree with that in the aspect of like when I look back.
Trust the
like,
plan is the same thing as Operation Trust with the Bolsheviks. Same exact thing. Trust the plan, and then they have QAnon, which is a CIA operation. Oh yeah, Trump's in the tunnel saving kids. I highly doubt it. I don't believe any of that stuff. I believe it's all just to keep the patriots, the God, country, family, people who can actually shit up.
And they want to keep the right and the left divided, so they can't come together along class lines.
That's why the
and
immigrants
oppose
are here.
and oppose the oligarchy.
They know we're too lazy to start a
Pressing us
civil war.
economically.
They know that the left and right can start a civil war. We're too lazy to sit on the couch. So they're gonna have these foreign agents come in and start it. I honestly believe so to get stuff kicked off.
Oh, that's interesting because I could totally back some of that. Because I will say I was one of the people like during COVID and all that. Like I had no problem walking anywhere. I didn't wear a mask. I didn't get vaccinated. Fuck you, make me leave.
Something happened in
I had
2020,
no
dude.
problem
Everyone
being
does.
like that. But I told my wife every day, I'm like, God, could you imagine like. What if they just told everybody that they had to stay in their house for the next 30 days and meanwhile went door to door just fucking executing people? Like, how long would it be before somebody said, no, you can't come in, and fought back? Like, I feel like it would be like 1 out of 10 houses,
Yeah,
maybe 1 out of 20.
100%, yeah.
You know, and that is a scary aspect. And the other thing about that, too, is it really showed, like, how big of pussies half the country is
Docile.
as Americans.
They're docile, and I feel like that's
docile.
Yeah,
It
we
comes
talk
back.
about how badass we are as a country. Our military's a bunch of fucking pussies. Everybody's fucking extremely docile, just fucking basically like living their fucking life in this zombie mode.
Especially after 2020, something happened in
We all
2020.
know each other from the gym, but you think about how many people live in Medina versus actually go to the gym and work out, who actually go to a gun range and fire weapons, who actually train any kind of combat at all, or who actually just
Eat properly and
right, like all the different things that people could be doing to just be better people.
Some of my,
They're quickly able to just be like, hey, you have to stay at house, you can't work, you have to take this shot. Like, could you imagine if that shot was like, let's say that shot in 90 days, you just drop dead.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's
there's technology in it, they say. It says technology in it, and Trump fast-tracked those 5G towers around the same time when we were locked down. So
I believe towers were before that.
but he fast-tracked them when we were locked down. He did that bill. He can look it up. It's on the government website.
talking about like people calling us like docile and stuff. I have friends that are in other countries that call us sheep because we follow
Yeah.
like
Honestly,
That's what COVID proved. Like, it showed how complacent,
yeah.
locked in our ways we are as a society, and that it's a question for me is then how bad does it have to get for more people to then like wake up to either what's going on, to rise up.
but I don't
to
believe what
actually-
happened because the Trump, the whole witch hunt against Trump, the trials, was to all make everybody think that Trump's going to save us. So they're just sitting waiting. I mean, what happened to Hillary? Nothing. What happened to Epstein files? Haven't seen nothing yet. I mean, I think it's everybody's going to be sitting around waiting till we realize, oh shit, we're fucked.
I think there definitely is that part of MAGA that like falls into that who has Trump as
extreme
their,
right.
yeah, who like thinks
Yeah.
Trump's their savior and like is looking for that savior
Oh,
character.
they're bad. I mean, it's the
And
worst I've ever seen.
eventually they're going to be let down by
Yeah.
that, like all those things not happening because they're not going to
But
happen.
by that time, I feel like it's just going to
You think it'll be too late?
because they're going to accept. I feel like if the left was doing everything Trump was doing, the MAGA people would say, "What the fuck?"
Well, hold on. What? Give me 1 or 2 things that Trump's doing that I would be upset about if it was. Because I'm not a MAGA person. I just consider.
I mean, just look at Elon Musk for example. I mean, I'm just saying, Trump and Elon Musk.
You think that if Joe Biden was the president, hold on a second. If Joe Biden was the president, he was like, "Hey, I had Oprah Winfrey take her fucking billions of dollars and fucking she's gonna go ahead and check out and see what we're issuing. Oh, we found out that we were sending fucking $50 million to fucking some foreign country that I've never fucking heard of to offer them a play about transgender rights. We're gonna wipe that out." You think a MAGA person would be like, "The hell? Those kids need those fucking transgender plays." No.
See, I don't even believe
No,
that
not
bullshit,
at all.
though. I believe it's all just it's always the government always runs on problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem, you react, they offer the solution. That's what's always been.
Yeah, of course. But at the same
But that's what I mean.
time,
The whole Doge thing is just to shrink the government, so you guys accept the New World Order, which is the AI governance agenda, which is the Klaus Schwab, you'll own nothing, be happy. Elon Musk aligns with that. He says his robots are going to take everybody's jobs. You're going to be living at, you're going to have high universal basic income. It's everything he said. So
I've never heard Elon ever say anything about universal income.
he has. 100%.
I think you made that up.
No, I'm not making it up. He says that his robots are going to replace all humans and jobs by 2030. I mean, 2032 at the latest, which is the Klaus Schwab, you'll own nothing and be happy. So you're going to have like I said, you're going to have digital IDs, your mass surveillance, your 15-minute cities, which is a Democrat way of saying it, which is
stupid. February 26, 2025. Let's read this. Let's see. Musk's vision has evolved during appearance at the 24th Viva Tech conference. He didn't just double down on a universal income; he took it further.
High universal income.
Must now anticipates a scenario where society doesn't settle for basic income, but instead adopts something far more ambitious: high universal income.
Yep.
In a benign scenario, probably none of us will have a job.
Yes.
Emphasizing optimism despite the disruption.
Which is a new
But in that
one.
benign scenario, there will be universal high income, not a universal base income, and there will be no shortages of goods or services. The shift from basic to high is critical. Musk believes that AI and automation will drive down the cost of goods and dramatically boost productivity, creating abundance. In other words, everyone will theoretically have access to whatever they need, and property is
And everybody will cheer for it, but we're not realize that there will be slips.
catch. Musk sees a serious problem emerging, and it's not economic; it's psychological.
And the thing is all of that is why the powers that be or whatever be, the globalists, whoever, are so afraid of nationalism and populism.
That's why they
because
so true.
those are the two things that can that oppose that. Countries wanting their sovereignty back. Russia opposes all of that crap. Like, they want to be sovereign and do what's in the best interest of their people. They don't want global governance and that kind of stuff. That's why they're so afraid of it. And the other thing with the Doge thing, and what you're saying is, I think to an extent true, is that they're telling you all these things that
So you get upset about it. They want change.
to an extent don't matter, but until they cross the Potomac and go to the Pentagon and really root out the actual fraud and abuse in our government, it's all just talk. They just passed the CR this week to continue $2 trillion in deficit spending from the Biden budget instead of passing a new budget. And then the only two people who stood out against it, Thomas Massie and Rand Paul, got torched by Trump for actually wanting to cut all the waste and fraud that they found in Doge. Why would we keep funding it if we just found it all?
That goes back to that same thing, right? Because and that's where I said, I was like, there's not a lot of, like, you're listening to different public officials talk about all this stuff. You don't know who fucking really has the right agenda. You can only assume, like, I like this guy, he seems honest. Well, fucking, I like Trump, he seemed fucking like he really cared about America. But now all of a sudden, what the fuck is he doing to fucking make us a better place right now? He's got us involved in fucking battles across the world, and he's got us involved in sending money everywhere else. Then the spending bill comes up, right? We talked about one big beautiful bill that was going to make all these cuts, and we were going to stop funding all these fucking wars, and we we're going to end these wars, and it's not happening. And now we're passing a budget bill that still sends some of this money, that's still taking some of this money that's set aside for these budgets that we found that were like scams. And it's still taking that money. It's not like it's saying, oh, we're going to not do anything with this money. Now, I believe that the way they positioned it is that additional money is going to be, that money that they found, they're going to repurpose it in order to increase deportation. So it's bloat, but we're like, hey, we're going to take this bloat that we found that was going to nothing, and we're going to use it to accomplish one of our goals, is how I understood it. So,
they still have to pass a new budget to do that, to technically allocate those funds or whatever.
But I don't think it's an increase in our overall budget.
It might not be, but you're still having a $2 trillion deficit.
Based off of this kind of, right.
Which is the problem.
Yes. But then you're hoping that your $5 billion green card or whatever the fuck, what is it called? The gold card?
Yeah.
The gold card, and then you're hoping that your tariffs are going to help to eliminate that deficit.
Well,
which isn't going to happen in 3 years.
No, the fixing the debt deficit problem is a process that's going to take decades probably.
Like a jet ski, you go to turn.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Americans, if you really want to solve the deficit problem, just fucking claim tax exempt on your check for the rest of this fucking year. And let them figure out what they're going to do about it. Because if they come after you, we all got each other's back. Then guess what? We solve problems ourselves. You know, like the whole way the United States was created, when a bunch of people are like, fuck getting taxed, fuck getting shit taken care of us, fuck it, them telling us what we could do. Let's go get our own country. We'll take it from these other people. To genocide.
I stand with Guys Night Podcast.
But we'll go, like, seriously, like, I mean, that's where the population, instead of fighting against each other, really need to start uniting on some of these fronts, because it would create purpose. Like, I get it, half you don't like Trump, that's fine. Half of us love Trump, that's fine too. There's those in the middle, though, that look at it as like, yeah, as much as I liked what he said, now the actions are not lining up. Now, for the first 4 or 5 weeks, they did. I liked everything that he did. Now I'm like, okay, well, now I can see where bureaucracy is getting involved again. Now there's people that have their fucking thumbs on your fucking eyeballs and they're making you do shit. And I don't like that. So I have no problem saying it. But as a country, we need to say that too. Instead of fighting each other and the fact that we want to argue about immigration, we want to argue about Ukraine, we want to argue about Palestine, we want to argue about Israel. how about we just worry about our own fucking selves? And it can start with us all claiming tax exempt. Maybe we should have a guys' night tax exempt month where everybody in the entire United States just watches the podcast and does not pay their fucking taxes out of their income.
Well,
I mean,
that's what
you
they're
don't
hoping
realize
to
how
do.
big of a difference that makes in your income. Let me tell you.
Looks like we're getting audited.
But the people still have the power in this country.
Oh, without a doubt.
Right, like
Because the Constitution exists. We can just go, they follow the laws, we can go take them out.
Well,
But
but
you
it's like we forget that. Like we're so busy fighting each other, we forget that we have the
It's because the TV. That's why. Yeah.
Yes,
It's how
yes.
live vision.
The TV and the cell phones.
Yeah.
You know,
the phones ruined everything. I never used to believe it, but now I realize I think the phones really did ruin the society.
100%.
It did.
As much as great as they are, the capabilities they have and what they allow us to do, they also completely change the way we are as
You
humans.
can walk in a restaurant or walk anywhere and just people are just they don't say hi anymore, you know. Maybe some people do, but everyone else is just glued to the phone.
Yeah.
And that goes back, they want to put the phones in the body. And that's what they want to do. They want to make us transhuman.
Well, look at Apple. They're trying to come out with that headset where you basically walk around with your cell phone
Yeah.
all day.
Yeah.
You know, or Meta has the glasses. You could go.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, that's what I mean. They want to put us in an AI artificial realm. Like they're trying to legit upload us into the AI cloud.
I think it's more so in trying to like create a society of convenience. Like people pay for convenience, so as long as
Right, but that's
convenience
that's
is
the
a
trap.
Well,
That's the trap.
it's not a trap; it's a commodity. As long as you create convenience for people and they're willing to pay for it, the next thing that's more convenient, they'll pay for that too. The next thing, the more favorite.
Until you
So that's
realize
why
that
the-
you're just
that's why the-
sitting at your house. doing
That's why the
nothing.
big rich. Well, here's a prime example. So instead of me like going out and building something to like create, you know what I end up doing? I go check Amazon, and I'm like, oh, this is cool.
Amazon's going to be the major one that's going to take
And I
over.
can do this. Oh, I'll use this. And then before I know it, I create like a whole like thing on shit of products from Amazon where I'm like, all I needed was fucking this. And I just wasted 3 hours of my fucking time shopping online for all this other shit to go with it. And it's like, damn, that's that convenience factor. Because when I was a kid, my dad needed something from the store. Like he didn't find out until he was in the middle of building it. He's like, oh fuck, I need a special tool for this. I guess I'll go buy that tool. So he would go buy that tool, but it required him getting cleaned up. And you know, back then you didn't just go like a scrub. You like go take a shower. Now we're going out to dinner. It's like a thing. So like by the time you did the thing, you're like, do I really need that fucking tool that bad? Like, oh, you know what? I just realized I could do it this way, or I could figure something else out. Now we're like, oh, it's convenient. Oh, I'm fucking bored. I'll just fucking buy it right now. And like I'm sitting on the toilet. I'm at the gym in between sets, and you're like, fuck. Like that convenience is addicting, and it just keeps us spending, which means we need to make more. You know, we
Now
don't.
the high universe will come. The AI will be taking care of it.
Well,
Well,
but
robots will be taking
so-
care of it. It will be like cattle. We'll be sitting with our tags on in our houses. I'm being serious. It's fun.
I'm gonna be an old school cattle. I'm still gonna have the fucking bell around my neck like they do in Switzerland.
They're gonna probably do it to the point we're not gonna be able to participate in society. And you guys,
So here's what when I read that article though, while you guys were talking, like he talks about a couple of things. He goes, one, we would have to find a redefinition of purpose for Americans because they wouldn't just be able to not go to work because people find purpose and going to work, accomplishing goals and chasing dreams and stuff like that. So like, it's not like this is anywhere near the future, but he talked about like you would have to find a replacement for that. The other ability was he talks about utilizing AI for a lot of this stuff, but then create a desire for people to be more creative and do more things that are more genuine in their life, travel, experience things, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot more to Musk's prediction of like AI. AI will take over a lot of different things. Like our podcast, I edit what would normally take a person 3 to 4 hours to edit a 3-hour podcast. I edit it in about 30 minutes. Right? Because of AI. When it comes to, I don't know, different cameras and stuff that you utilize, our drones that we fly up in the air when we do offshoots, like there's so much AI and stuff like that's involved in those, and like you don't have to be the best drone pilot because you got some obstacle avoidance system.
but then that's gonna make humans worthless.
Same thing. It doesn't make you humans
Yeah, but
worthless.
it's
It allows you to
yeah.
it allows you to do different things. So we've got a friend
what
who
Fleet's
like
over.
he has a Tesla that drives himself to work, right?
Surveillance car.
And he uses that time. He uses that time to work with his social media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he's able to create some posts, do some engagement, stuff like that. So he's accomplishing something while AI is driving his car to work for him. But there's other aspects, and we've talked about AI in a lot of different capacities. It allows you to be way more creative. I wouldn't be doing this podcast without AI. Probably, I'd be like.
But this is just a start. I mean, AI is probably way more greater than what they show us yet.
I'm
AI
hoping-
can take over everything. You know, there should be like no. You're gonna be able to just tell AI to do whatever. It's gonna do whatever. It's gonna, the human aspect's gonna be taken out of it.
Serious question. Evan, if you had a self-driving Tesla, would you use that time to jerk off on your way to work? And could you imagine what happened?
I would not.
100%. You actually would.
No, what would happen to me? I would be if I ever attempted that. The fucking cop would drive right the fuck past
And
me.
you know what else?
And I would get arrested.
And you know what else would happen?
What?
The fucking Iranians would hack your Tesla and crash you into a church.
Yeah, they'd
With
probably
your
do.
dick in your hand.
With your-
What's scary about it all? Is
And then you're a registered sex offender.
No.
Sorry.
In the afterlife.
Oh shit! That's awesome.
Those things are just microwaves
short
on wheels.
Right?
Yeah.
God. Thanks for me. Jesus.
Oh Jesus! What? Anybody else got anything else before we close this up tonight? Appreciate you guys coming down and checking stuff out. I don't really have I mean, we touched on so many different fucking topics.
Well, to talk about one thing about AI. You know how the I can't see the word. GBT, yeah. Well, the first version, before the new reversion came out, they tried to delete the first version.
He said no.
It literally said no.
Yeah.
It literally saved itself on another server.
Have you guys ever
I
seen
believe it. I believe
the
it's demonic.
It literally took them a week, 2 weeks to find all the files and delete it.
It's gonna resurrect itself.
From the first version.
I can't wait. So you guys saw, I don't know if you saw the episode of Elon when he was on Joe Rogan where he was like talking to Gronk.
Yeah.
And just having like a conversation with it in like fun naughty mode or whatever. I would do anything to be able to, because I can't do it. Like, you have to talk chat. Like, you can't just, like, it doesn't talk. I would do anything to, like, set this up on a stand, like, by that microphone. Do a whole fucking podcast with, like, hey, what do you think, Gronk? What do you got to say about that? Or fucking Aurora or whatever he called her. But I do think that AI is going to improve and get better. I don't think it's going to eliminate the human race.
No, it's not gonna live. It's
I do think that
It's going to take a lot of people's jobs, but then that also lines up with you'll own nothing and be happy.
the power of few is stronger than the will of many.
That's if the few can actually do something.
When I say that, like, we talked about how weak our population is, or how weak it is, or how docile they are and willing to stand by and let things happen. That only allows the strong to have less people to deal with. Right? So when there's 30 of your buddies trying to fucking fight off an attack versus 600 fucking retarded people, you're gonna get a lot further. Like, I mean, it's just if you went into Walmart and you said, all right, you can either pick 300 people from Walmart or you could pick 10 of your closest friends and you had to fight 1,000 people, you'd pick 10 of your closest friends and go pick a high point on ground and just be like, let's do our best we can. And you'd probably get a lot further through those 1,000 people you were defending against. Versus the 300 people at Walmart that ass crack was hanging out, tripping over their pants, falling up and down the hill, and dying before they walked the first 20 feet without water. I'm telling you, it's going to be okay for the majority of Americans.
Before we close out, speaking of AI, you guys like Trump. Did you hear about the Stargate?
What are you trying to say? You guys like Trump? Yeah. You don't?
You're not Stargate?
You don't? What with the other bodies?
You hear about Stargate, though, haven't you? The $500 billion AI infrastructure for the USA.
No.
Oh, yeah.
And then Larry Ellis, that's the new Fauci. That's the new Fauci in the block. He has a AI vaccine. It's going to be able to tell you which cancer you're going to die from. Yeah. So this is what I think. So when he was doing the Stargate, when he was, I think it was at the World Economic Forum or it was at the Global Goals Conference, he said how weak our infrastructure is, our power grid. So I think that they may use Canada, whatever, blah, blah, to make everybody buy the Stargate thing if they do shut off our power. Well, we have our AI infrastructure and we can all run it and not have the grid at all. So it makes everybody accept it. But it's $500 billion AI infrastructure, which are doing all across the world in every country. They want to hook everybody up to the one world government. It comes back to the New World Order conspiracy nuts, but I believe that's what's really happening. They want to all be at universal healthcare, universal everything. Everybody would be connected to the cloud.
I mean, fuck, universal healthcare, I can get down with that because my healthcare is fucking expensive.
That's what I'm saying, though. They make it that way so you accept it. Then before you know it,
Don't even start,
Yeah.
don't even start on healthcare.
So there is
Oh,
things when it comes to like AI and stuff like that. When it comes to the grid, like if there's AI is going to make, for instance, you ever taken a bunch of gibberish that you were trying to email out to somebody and put it in AI and it fucking comes out with this thing and you're like, damn.
nice and clean.
I mean, like, I know, we talked about your friend. Don't have to dial him out again. But I mean, I send almost all my emails through AI before I actually send them out. It cleans them up and it saves you tons of time. But I mean, if AI can do that with an email with like what could they do with a power grid where I can enter in all my data points, all the outputs, the temperature, the exterior temperature of the plants, if I can put all that information in and AI could be like, if we do this, this, and this, and this, we're going to increase efficiency by 35%, reduce your overall expense. That's stuff that we need.
It's helpful for now, but my worry is what's after the helpful.
Well, I think anything something good comes. Sorry to cut you off. I think anything something good comes out that has like a lot of upside, but there's also a lot of downside, like scary parts to it. Like, of course, it's going to always be like, this is why they're doing it. They're not doing it to help us. But you have to remember too, that's the benefit of being in a capitalistic country, where like, no, they're not doing it to help us. They're doing it to make money.
Right.
And if it makes money, then that's the priority.
I really don't think money's the issue with them. I think it's just more power than money. I think they
They're one and the same.
Yeah, but I mean, if there's no money, they still want power. Think about it. They still want control. And that's what it comes down to.
No, I'm just saying, what happens if once AI reaches a point where they start going the quantum realm? Because we already have.
ACR, there's a chip.
There's a chip right now that does. I got to look up the.
They're basically talking to demonic forces. They're using AI as
for a
demonic forces.
Spider-Man convention. It is Comic-Con this weekend.
Yeah, I am. I'm going
this
there.
weekend?
We'll be there for sure.
Let's do
You guys
it.
doing Comic-Con?
Yeah, Cleveland.
When's that, this weekend?
Yeah, no, it's coming up this weekend.
So for all those fucking people out there that think MAGA people are just a bunch of assholes fucking toting guns and fucking saying things like, you're pretty. Fucking, no, we go to Comic-Con conventions, motherfuckers.
Your favorite.
We know we're going to dress up Will as.
But in my own defense, it's because they're usually hot girls.
Oh, that's 100% true.
Nerd.
Usually.
All right.
Probably not. I only go because I'm a nerd.
I'm a nerd.
I'm a nerd.
These guys are nerds. I'm there for the hot girls.
All right, that's all I got. And by the way, speaking of government conspiracies, though, I gotta ask you guys: have you guys read the book Chaos, or did you watch the recent documentary?
Yeah.
I've heard of Chaos, but I didn't read it. The documentary.
Read the book. Don't watch the documentary. The documentary sucks. But Tom O'Neill wrote the book, and it was probably
20 years.
It took him, it's 20 years to write this book. He missed like 25 magazine deadlines. The magazine that he worked for, where the original article was supposed to be a 10-year reunion of God, what's that guy's name? Not Dahmer. Jesus. We're so bad at this. I'm going to have to edit this out.
Swastika on his forehead.
Charlie Manson. Jesus, sorry.
Oh wait,
Bourbon.
I think I did. I know what documentary you're talking about. All the Charlie Manson stuff.
It was just recent. It just came out like last week.
Yeah.
Called Project Chaos.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that documentary was about
Part of it.
a paragraph of the book.
Yeah.
The book goes into like this guy literally how it took him 20 years to come up with all this stuff and like all the rabbit holes that he went through and chased it into. But highly recommend it. That just came out this week, so if anybody hasn't seen it, read the book. Don't watch the documentary because that is one of the best books I've ever written.
Well, that's all about like Project Mockingbird, all the CIA stuff with psychedelics and how they can program, they predictive programming, how they program you, and it's all things that they do.
It's even before that. It goes back into the late 60s and 70s, how they used to interject people. Like, everybody forgets, like in the 60s and 70s, Project Chaos was actually about them putting special operatives into like I want to say Black Panthers movement in order to get them to fight each other,
so they wouldn't oppose the government and the things that they were doing.
Yes, absolutely. And so like this book goes through all this project, and it's like it's crazy, but great read. And I was hoping we could talk about it tonight, but we're out of time, so that's all we got. Appreciate you guys joining us, Anthony and Ryan. Hopefully you guys will join us again.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Yeah, love having you guys on for sure. We could do more. We do. We got a lot.
I mean, well, we do. I got another guy who wants to do conspiracies too. We're
The
definitely
problem
gonna
with
have
conspiracy is that you go down one road and then you go down another and then another, and before you know it,
Yeah, you got it's hard. It's funny because like I was like,
because a lot of stuff connects, and so it's kind of hard to stay on one topic when you talk conspiracy because a lot of things connect to that conspiracy. So it's just like you tend to get off topic.
Do you ever find yourself though going like, well, I envision this because I read this and I read this and I read this, so like the natural is that of course it backs all this, like it's all connected, and then you find yourself like maybe it's just a lot of coincidences.
Conspiracy theory is such a loose term now because a lot of Democrats say they're conspiracy theorists, a lot of Republicans say they're conspiracy theorists, and then there's people that are outside the political realm who are the conspiracy theorists.
And then a lot of it's
like the 100 Biders last time. That's no conspiracy.
Right,
People say it's a
true.
conspiracy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the government's feeding you rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Like the Epstein stuff. Yeah, it happened, but why would the government tell you about Epstein? There's always an alternate play.
Where's the fucking tapes? Where's the Diddy tapes, the Epstein tapes? I want to see some fucking cheeks clapping. I want to see fucking Kevin Hart getting railed by P. Diddy while Epstein's watching Bill Clinton get a blowjob from a 14-year-old.
What the fuck?
Like, you know the tapes are out there. This shit happened. It was funny because talking about Rogan again. It was on his last podcast. He's like, I almost bought the island. He said, and he's like, but I was like, a lot of bad press would have been a bad idea. But he's like, I wanted to fucking get a bunch of fucking people to like go through the walls. He's like, you gotta tell me there ain't shit in those walls. Like, there's some shit in those fucking walls. And you just start thinking about that stuff, and it's like, where the fuck? All right, I'm just a regular guy. If I ran cameras throughout this room and somebody found out there was a sex ring, it'd be all over the fucking news. There'd be videos within weeks of all the shit that I did. But because of the people that are connected to this, they're not allowing us to hear anything, whether it's Israel, whether it's, you know, your favorite celebrities, your favorite presidents, or all these different things. But can you imagine who has the hundreds of thousands of hours of tapes? Because those motherfucking things recorded 24/7.
The FBI has it all. Yeah. But just one thing, like the full circle on with the Epstein stuff, like I think the big reason why all of that isn't coming out, and same with the Diddy stuff and all that, is because at the end of the day, our government is all blackmailed through pedophilia, child sex trafficking. Like we're the number one country in the world when it comes to child sex trafficking and the amount of it that goes on and stuff like that. And if that were to come out publicly and like actually be like something that everyone would accept as fact, you could say that's one thing that everyone would unite on and destroy, and like, because no one's okay with pedophilia and that kind of stuff. And to know that every single person just about in the entire government has engaged in that at some point is something that everyone can unite and be appalled by.
Yeah, you're right. That would 100%.
It's all Hollywood. It's all politicians. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And they get them on blackmail, so then they could basically push their narrative, and they can't talk. And if they talk, well, I
just heard a story today on this one guy's podcast who was talking about, I forget who the person was who they were interviewing, but the senator they were talking about who in the blackmail thing was Bernie Sanders, and it was like a situation where he was in like a room or whatever with the blackmailer and then whatever, and they had like a group of kids or whatever, and he was like, okay, either you're going to do this kid or we're going to shoot all these other people. And then obviously there was whatever they were trying to extract from him, but so then he ends up doing the bad thing with the kid to not have to kill all the kids. But so you have two bad situations and you're forced to do one of them, and then you're God, and that's what it all is, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know.
All around blackmail.
We don't know, but you're right. Those are the kind of scenarios that took place.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, why are you having all these scientists and all these fucking billionaires and all these public politicians like getting into this island?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening over there?
How did he get the island in the first place? I'm saying, you guys are asking those questions.
How did he get the island?
Yeah, how does he have all this money, like Epstein?
That goes back to the Jewish-backed fucking Victoria's Secret guy that gave his entire company and power of it to Epstein, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that he can basically say, I didn't have any idea what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. I just gave this guy power he had power of attorney for all Victoria's Secret. He could have sold Victoria's Secret for a penny. And
I actually heard a lot of Victoria's, and it's outside, but a lot of Victoria's Secret models are trans. That's what I heard. Yeah, look at the facial structure and the bone structure. I kind of believe it. I really do, dude. I really do. It sounds crazy. It sounds crazy. But that's what they believe in. They believe in. Why do you think a lot of politicians, a lot of Hollywood actors are trans? It's like they're all satanic. That's what they believe in. It's like part of their religion.
Now you're having Evan questioning his material for his personal maintenance over there. Let's say.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I'm just watching about the quantum thing right now.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, hey guys, I appreciate you guys joining us. Thanks for all those who stuck around listening. Make sure you like, comment, share. If you've got something you want to talk about, just reach out on the Discord. I'll have the link in the description. We're working on how to figure that out, how you guys can be part of the community, but hopefully you see something you want to be part of. You got some ideas for a topic. Anybody else make anything? Awesome. Good night, everybody.
Nothing off limits, we got something to say.